which means the only way to deplatform him would likely require imprisonment or death. Hey, if you see death threats about me, you should report that shit too. These people are fucking insane. But keep in mind the difference now between what she was saying before and after, right? Before was I woke up to an assault rifle in my face. Now it's I was in custody before they ever even came in my apartment.
She was woken by the barking orders of a police officer.
No! Jesse didn't know this! Oh no, wait, did he not know? Brianna has gotten plenty of opportunities to come to stream. She's a bad faith actor. She has no desire for actual conversation. All she's done is take cheap shots at me on Twitter for like the past week without having any clue about what she's talking about. She's had plenty of opportunities to come on and chat. She'll never take any because she knows she's wrong. Keffals said that she didn't want her to come on and chat because she'd make money off of me. I offered to donate $1,000 to any trans charity of her choosing, except for Keffals. If she would come on and chat, and they all avoid it. Like, it's pretty obvious when people are just operating in bad faith. When you say bad faith for you guys just think it means somebody that disagrees with you. But I mean, like, intentionally propagating like disinformation with no desire whatsoever to be even remotely accurate. She's just like peddling a narrative. Do you know what Keffals is basing her claim on? You threatening to dox her family? Yeah, basically anytime I say I'm gonna cover anything related to her story, she always tries to get out of it by saying like, oh, by talking about this, you're spreading information about like Kiwi Farms or my docs or anything, so you're trying to dox me. That's how she just always has it like angled that way. Do you think these people actually know they're wrong? You know what? For a lot of them, actually, I think they do. For the leader people, I think Brianna, no, they do. They do. I think I've said this before. If I'm trying to figure out what a person thinks, I try to envision like, what would they do if they had another state of mind? So if I think of the Briannu Wu person, like, let's say that she does know that she's correct and she knows she's right. Let's say that I assume that she really does know that. Well, what would you do if you were Briannu Wu, right? Initially, she offered to talk to me. I think she's pretty attention hungry. They all are, right? Why wouldn't you jump on my stream and shit on me? Like, she's already like a semi-public figure. She's kind of been there before. She's on Twitter doing it. Like, it seems like that would be pretty reasonable to like jump in and engage. If you're gonna do that much on Twitter, maybe, no? But when you do these things where you take like, well, what if she wasn't lying? Or I'm sorry, what if she wasn't being honest? What if she thinks that she actually might be completely full of shit? Well, then what would you do, you know? Well, you'd probably just take some cheap shots at Twitter and find every possible excuse under the sun to avoid an actual conversation while you just continue to shitpost about it. Probably, that'd be my guess. So I think like when I try to conceive of like possible states of mind, I'm pretty sure she knows that she's lying. I know that Keffals knows that she's lying. Keffals' behavior, I think that's why every single time I get on Twitter, notice that Keffals is immediately like spam. Notice that Keffals is immediately like spam tweeting about me, like incessantly. Like, I think the last time she did it, she even said she was stepping away from the computer for a few hours, and then I started tweeting. She comes back immediately and tries to like spam report my thing. I think the reason why she's doing that is because she knows that she's like caught herself in a ton of different lies. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Keffals knows. There's other information too that kind of points to the obvious fact that she knows she's lying as well, but that'll come out later. Why did she even agree to the conversation in the first place? I think because she'd only seen a little bit of stuff, so she probably thought that she was in the right, but then when people started linking her stuff, she probably quickly realized that she only had like half of the story and decided to shut the fuck up. Do you think the video she's going to do about her controversies was getting ahead of your manifesto? Yeah, she's petrified every time I start tweeting. I didn't realize now until we've compiled like so much stuff behind the scenes. It's actually astounding how much she lies. I think Keffals is probably the worst person I've seen on the internet that's gotten to this level of fame. In terms of like amount of lies and like destructive tendencies towards other people. I don't know if any Nazis I've dealt with or anybody else has even approached this level of like insanity. It's actually wild. I'm hoping that like, I think having everything in one place, I think will show like the depravity of this. But yeah, I don't know if I want to say anything else for now. Well, the document I've never before seen new information. Well, I've never before seen new information. Well, one, it's gonna decide on how much I publish from what I've received privately that I trust. And two, I think there's a lot of stuff about Keffals. The thing is there's so much stuff out there that I don't know who knows what's true or what's not true. Or I don't know if people know what's true and what's not true. So it's probably all out there, but it hasn't been like put together in a coherent format yet. I don't fully understand. Is alluding to said website a ban because it might look like the sub is using it? Because what Keffals is going to do is Keffals is going to try to get people in my community to link to or refer to that website. And then once they do, she's going to be able to link logs of my chat saying, oh my God, look, they are trying to dox me. That's her goal. That's what she wants to do. So anybody that's alluding to it or anything like that, I'm just going to permaban. Anybody that's asked for anything like that. What makes you think the document will be so undeniable that they won't be able to ignore it and not address it in any meaningful way? A couple things. So one, internet strategy. So Keffals is actually a relatively low impact person. She just manages to stir up a lot of drama around her narratives, but she is unbelievably unlikable. And she's a bad communicator, and she's pretty stupid. So, do you see how she's lying? Why would you lie about this? Like, why would she avoid bringing up the website? There's two huge problems with this. One, as we're gonna see, is you might get caught in a lie, which is really scary. So like the way that this carries over is that like she stirs up a lot of attention on Twitter because of the narratives that she sells, but she doesn't really have like a big dedicated following anywhere else. Like she doesn't get any YouTube engagement. Her streams are like pretty meh. She's got like 1,000 viewers, which isn't horrible. Yeah, the only way she really stays relevant is through conflict that is heavily identity based. Like nobody gives a fuck about Keffals. People care about the trans activist who's getting doxxed and harassed, but they don't actually care about her. They don't like her or know her. And when she talks, she's like just very stupid. She's like stumbling over herself constantly. So I think that Keffals tries to keep herself alive through conflict. And I think as the conflict kind of ebbs and flows, she's basically always like seeking new targets. Like she's looking for new people to glass basically. Because if she's not like destroying something, then she just has nothing. So I think with that being said, I think that, I need to make more of this shit. What was the question? The question had to do with, how will this, I think having all this information, I'm sorry. I've watched the way that she appears in other communities. It even happens in Vaush's community, and it happened a lot in H3H's community. I think that this is part of my new Hopium arc that I've been on for like the past few months. I think there are a lot of people. I think that when we look at certain narratives, especially around like trans activism, we kind of assume instantly like, oh, it's auto lost. Oh, trans narrative, we lose, right? But I don't think that's true. I think especially around the Keffal stuff, I think there are a lot of people that genuinely just want to know. There were a lot of people in the H3H3 subreddit. I even see them in Vaush where people are like, what? So why do people hate her so much, or what's going on? I think people are genuinely asking these questions. I think if you could point them to something and say like, hey, like, here you go. I think it would actually be really helpful. And I don't think that that type of thing exists right now. All you can really point to are like tweets or random Reddit posts or random YouTube videos, and it's not very satisfying, I don't think. So that's another reason why I think having like all of the information like compiled in one area I think would be really helpful. You think even an hour-long video would be too long to capture widespread attention? My goal is not to capture like super widespread attention. Or I think that'll happen, but it'll be a byproduct of what I'm doing. Well, will it capture widespread attention? I'm not sure. I just want to have something out there. I don't think I need widespread attention. Like, I'm trying to think if I should reveal my goals. I don't really have to be like secretive much because like the truth is out there. I don't really need to, it's not like I'm hiding anything. We've already archived like almost every single thing she's been involved in, so it's not like there's nothing for her to like weasel her way out of. I will say I'll give away one of my 3 goals, but it's because I've already kind of mentioned it before. Who just joined?
I did. Unsolicited advice time. Did you already say it?
What? Oh, fuck. Say what?
Did you already say what you were deciding if you could say it or not?
Well, I don't know how much I want to give her for the entertainment.
Okay,
factor.
then I would. Oh, is it only for entertainment? Because it's like you're not worried about that massive army having the chance to build a counter narrative.
That's not possible. Okay, when you guys talk about like narratives and counter narratives and all that shit, she's just wrong. Like there's nothing that she can do at this point. Like everything's already been said and laid bare out there. It's just a matter of me putting together the story. She's lost at this point. Like I'm bragging that I'm gonna like do a crack effort to get this done in like 1 or 2 days, but the hard part's just gonna be like writing it and making it sound good. Like that's it. Like all the information, everything is out there, and it's like super apparent. Like she's lies about everything. Like yeah, so I'm not worried about them like getting ahead of anything. There's a reason why. There's a reason why you can kind of tell. I'll give away this much, okay? There's a reason why every time I start tweeting, she gets like fucking jihadist about like trying to shut me down on Twitter, like tweeting at people, please don't talk to him, tweeting at people like, please ban him, please report him, please ban him. And it's because she's fucking petrified of anybody saying anything against her. Like, I don't think she'd be acting that way if she wasn't like ultra fucking paranoid that like her shit's gonna get fucked if anybody actually blames her. So no, I'm not worried about her like getting ahead of it. She can't get ahead of anything at this point. It's too late for her.
Did you wonder how that Briannu Wu moment played out? Like, do you think someone called her, texted her? Like, do you think she
Briannu was already predisposed to hate me? Here's what I think happened, but I can't tell 100%. So she's already predisposed to hate me. I probably already get like associated with a lot of like Gamergate-esque stuff. Right. But when she initially heard about me, she probably had a whole bunch of really wrong information. She started tweeting out way too confidently, as a lot of these dipshits do. And then as soon as I started to respond and other people started to reply, she realized that she was probably wrong about almost everything. So from there, she latched onto one stupid claim, which was like, you said this was the most progressive police force in the world. Like, that's the only thing she wanted to talk about. And then two, she started to avoid all conversations with me because she probably realizes that she's full of shit. And now her goal is to just like meme, disengage, meme and disengage, and meme and disengage. And that's all she wants to do.
Oh yeah, but I was more talking about like Keffals herself, like, because remember she had tweeted sometime.
Keffals might have tweeted and DM'd her, but I don't know how much that would have mattered. I think that like Briannu Wu even was like talking to people in emails and shit, trying to say like, oh, like I'll talk to Destiny, but it's not going to be about the Keffals stuff. Like, a total fucking loser.
Right, but then Keffals appears, right? Because she had just said, I'm going offline, I'm logging off, blah blah blah. So
she appeared as soon as Briannu Wu and I started fighting, I think.
Right, which is like, I'm wondering if someone like was texting her or people just started tagging her saying, hey, Brianna's about to talk to Destiny. I want to know how like she found out and what her reaction was.
Oh, I imagine she's probably the same as me. She's got a ton of people that like send her DMs about stuff going on online. Like, anytime somebody's tweeting about me, I'm getting like Discord messages, Twitter DMs, emails, like all the time. People always keep me alert and shit.
Yeah. Do you see my DM? Don't say it out loud.
Contact the police department getting a statement. Hold on. I'm not going to reveal any of that stuff. Seems Vaush's sub is turning on Keffals now. It's always hard to tell. Vaush's sub has always been kind of iffy on her. I can tell, but there's a couple ultra dick riders there that push Keffals shit really fucking hard. It's super cringe. I know the guy's name, or like I know his profile pic if I saw it. Oh my god, it might be a mod. I don't know. But Jesus Christ, he rides so hard. Oh wow, wait, maybe Keffals went too far even for this person. Holy shit. I know I recognize your name. Oh no. Wait, is this a psyop or is Keffals going? Because I know I've seen this person shitpost about me a ton on Vaush's subreddit. Looks like this thread got brigaded by his fans lame. The two bows are sure, but I'm the polar opposite of a DGGer. That's true. I know, I recognize your name, true. There doesn't seem to be any hard evidence yet, but I would take her word over Destiny's any day. I generally trust her, but this is an accusation I would ask proof for, even for my closest friends. Ooh, uh-oh. Was her claim about leaking her docs in reference to anything, or was it just a complete lie? If Keffals doesn't post proof of something, you can be assured that what she has said is a total lie. That is par for the course for her. She lies about almost everything. When Keffals talks about me leaking her docs, what she's referring to is when I posted her a link to her Kiwi Farms thread in my chat in response to accusations that my chat was harassing and doxing her. I've only posted it in my chat one time. I didn't even post to the page with her docs on it, but that is the only thing she could ever possibly be referring to. I've never posted her docs. I've never referred to her docs. I've never told people the site that it's actually posted on. I've never threatened to do it, like anything like that ever, never. So whatever she's referring to there, it's always just related to that bullshit. And the only reason she does it is to try to get me silenced, is because she's scared of me opening my mouth. That's why. A post that was made on my subreddit was just calling out how ridiculous it was that people accused our communities of having crossover, because my community is like very pro-trans. I got a ton of trans people in my community.
I know.
And it was people were just saying that like Kiwi Farms is a fucking insanely transphobic place. It's crazy to think that people think there's a huge crossover between that community and my community. That's why
I can never square what Keffals was saying with what I see.
Yeah, of course. Well, and also, here's my comments in my chat. This is exactly what I said when Keffals is saying that, like, I'm linking to her thread. This is why I was making those comments. So I'm just reading my logs. If she wants to blame my community, go for it. But she's actually fucking schizophrenic if she thinks even 1% is coming from us, aside from reporting shit. It's 100,000,000% obvious that the harassment is coming from there. And then I link to her thread, not to like directly to a doxing, but I just link to the thread. And I say, she has over 400 pages of thread on her kiwi farms. She has zero evidence, because at this point she was accusing my community of being the one harassing her, when she obviously has a huge KF thread where all of the harassment is coming from. That's why I was like talking about it in that context. I wasn't just linking it like, oh, go here and go dox her or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, I would never do something that fucking stupid.
I have made a Keffals thread, March 26th.
Also, she's saying that other journalists are aware of the actual site that doxed her, which I'm going to reiterate, we're not doing that. We're not even going to mention the site, and if you ask, you're going to get banned. But I believe that she's lying about that as well, because every time journalists are referring to her getting doxed, they only refer to kiwi farms. They never seem to refer to any other websites that might have been behind it. But after previously sharing my docs, oh, that's fake. Jesus. There's one problem. Destiny's a prolific ban evader, which means the only way to deplatform him would likely require imprisonment or death. Hey, if you see death threats about me, you should report that shit too. These people are fucking insane. Do you think your doc will have any sway on people's opinions of Keffals? I think people just need a cohesive narrative to understand why she's like an actually like horrible human being. Especially I think with like the 8chan founder turning against her. I'm quoting a little bit here, I don't know 100% because I don't follow this shit, but supposedly that 8chan founder is like a huge, do I want to say SJW? But apparently since leaving 8chan, he's like made it his like mission to like fucking take down hate sites or something, or he hates like kiwi farms and shit. So the fact that it's a guy, right? The fact that that person is like now, I think, anti-Keffals, right? After his tweets about her like backstabbing him or whatever. Who are her biggest allies? Keffals has no allies right now. I kind of got a little bit... We got a little bit black-pilled on the media for a second, but I don't think I'm actually super black-pilled on the media. I think the issue is, I think the problem is, she has like 2 or 3 close journalist friends. One was that Taylor person, and then there was another Kotaku writer, I think. I'll get more into this in my doc. But I think it's just like 2 or 3 shitty people in the media that were like friendly with her, and I think through those people she was able to springboard a whole bunch of really favorable coverage from other outlets. I think that if those people are forced to retract or rescind or clarify parts of their stories, I think that she loses a lot of her kind of like grip of the media. He literally made new accounts on Twitch and even tried to butt in on other streamers trying to work his way back in. He's done this before on multiple levels. He's done it for years on multiple platforms. When have I ever done this before? Is there any way for us to help in general? Yeah. If you see something, say something. Unironically, if you see people spreading bullshit or lies or misinformation, you should post about it or call them out on Twitter. Say, hey, that's not true. Or do the debate bro thing. Say, source, 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 source. Do that. Hit him up with the source. Why not ask to join the Medicare Josh stream coming up? Because as much as people try to say, I don't like kiwi farms. Don't like them, don't necessarily support them. I'm not like a big fan of them. I don't know how, I don't know what Medicare and Josh are planning on talking about. I'm not there like trying to help rebuild the site or any shit like that, even though that's what Keffals has tried to paint me as. So if they want to chat and do stuff, that's fine. If I have something relevant to talk to Josh about in the future, I would. If he wanted to, if there was something to talk about, but I don't think he likes me very much because I think he thinks I'm a pedophile. And I don't care for him that much because I just don't know. Josh said he'd never talk to you. Well, how long ago was that? Because I think he might have been reconsidering it, but.
So.
Oh my God.
One of the last things that I want to address, people were trying to say this was not swatting because they did not do a dynamic entry, meaning they didn't break down the door and rush in, which I never said they did. They did not go into my apartment until after I was in custody and they had a search warrant signed. They spent 8 hours searching my home while I was in custody. And the reason that they couldn't do that to begin with is because they needed proof there was actually a firearm. if there was actually a firearm that they saw when that initial interaction occurred, they would be A-okay to just go in and raid the place.
What is she even talking about? If they saw a firearm before the interaction occurred, what if they X-ray visioned it through the door? Can somebody translate what she's saying? Maybe I'm just not paying attention. I'm sorry. Let me listen. I don't know what she's even saying right here.
They did not go into my apartment until after I was in custody.
Also, keep in mind, fuck. Well, I don't want to do, I'm going to bore you guys with the manifesto if we do all of our greatest hits right now. But keep in mind the difference now between what she was saying before and after, right? Before it was, I woke up to an assault rifle in my face. Now it's, I was in custody before they ever even came in my apartment. Right?
They had a search warrant signed. They spent 8 hours searching my home while I was in custody. And the reason that they couldn't do that to begin with is because they needed proof there was actually a firearm. If there was actually a firearm that they saw when that initial interaction occurred, they would be A-okay to just go in and raid the place.
I don't even know what she's saying here.
That said, that's not what swatting is. Swatting is simply deceiving the police so they dispatch their emergency response unit.
It wasn't an emergency response unit that showed up at the door, though. It was police officers with a fucking search warrant. It was police officers with a search warrant. It was an emergency response.
It has nothing to do with getting raided or not. It is simply... That said, that's not what swatting is. Swatting is simply deceiving the police so they dispatch their emergency response unit. It has nothing to do with getting raided or not. So like in here, responding officers conducted the initial inquiries, which culminated in their attendance at Miss Sorrenti's residence. Officers did not conduct what is sometimes referred to as a dynamic entry into Miss Sorrenti's residence. Rather, they knocked on the door, announced themselves as police officers, and occupants answered. Any attempt by uninvolved third parties to suggest otherwise is inaccurate and irresponsible.
Ooh, that's her, by the way.
And with that said, I would actually like to bring on my fiance, who was involved, who was the person who answered the door.
Yeah, no, I answered the door, and they make it sound like a very normal interaction. They, them, pronouns, by the way. So it wasn't quite that they knocked on the door and I answered. Rather, I was getting ready for the shower, and there was a tremendous pounding on the door, and I approached the door, and the the peephole was blocked. And so there was just this huge pounding, and I could not look out in the hallway. But they shouted out, they called out, and identified themselves as police. So I did not really have much of a choice but to answer the door when they're barking the command, "This is London Police, open up." And so, yes, I opened the door after they had banged on it. And as soon as I opened the door, they had bound it with a rope so it could only be opened a little bit, but I saw lasers from rifles trained on the front of the door, inches from my face.
Hold up. What? How can you see lasers on the front of the door? If you're behind the door. Destiny, big mad that his narrative is dying. Mac D, welcome to the Permaban Club. See you later, my duder. I'm also super curious. How do you see the front door of your inside and they open it a little? Yeah. Do they use laser sights in Canada? Or does this person think that does this person think a red dot sight will leave an actual laser? If you have a rifle with a red dot sight on it, there's not an actual laser being shot out of your gun. I'm so curious. Fuck! I really want...
And so it became this game of, Simon Says, stick your hands out into the hallway, walk out slowly, etc., etc. And I did, obviously I complied, but the idea that they simply knocked and I answered is really not accurate. They pounded on the door and they told me at gunpoint to exit the apartment. They were wearing all kinds of gear, and the only reason...
I imagine this could easily be debunked. I would assume they must have some sort of laser something, because there's no way that them, I don't know if I can say this person would just completely make that up, right? That would be so stupid. They couldn't possibly just make that up, right?
They didn't do dynamic entry. They brought the battering ram, the handheld battering ram. They brought that, but our building superintendent pleaded with them not to break down the door. So that's the only reason they didn't do a dynamic entry, which they very well may have. So...
Yeah. I'm really glad that you could say this part of it, because I wasn't awake. I was still asleep when all of that happened.
Yes. And so I had to wait in the hallway, and I knew immediately what this was about, because it had happened only a few weeks prior in Toronto. And I tried to tell them this, but there was no conveying that. And so they went to go get Clara. And I told them, she's asleep right now. She sleeps like a bag of bricks. You're not going to get her up. They actually had to go inside the apartment, like in our front foyer, almost right to our bedroom door. And they yelled at Clara while she was in bed. So she got up. They were saying, Clara Sorrenti. Note that they did not use her dead name at this point either. They said, Clara Sorrenti, we know you're in there. Come out with your hands up. And she had been totally asleep. She got up and came out of the bedroom door frame. And at that point, she saw a rifle pointed at her. She had been awake for... She was woken by the barking orders of a police officer. And so, yes, someone did not wake her with a rifle pointed 3 inches from her face. But essentially, as soon as she woke up...
Was I in a state of undress? I was naked, and I had to put on a pair of pajamas that was, on the floor before I could even go out to see the police officers.
They were graceful enough to allow that. But, yes, they most certainly had a gun pointed right at her within seconds of getting up.
Yeah. And it's just been really frustrating seeing this misinformation campaign about this, where, Clara's partner just opened the door. The police didn't barge in. They didn't have guns. They weren't aggressive.
Oh, yes. And when I saw them coming for Clara and they went inside and were yelling for her, that was probably hands down the scariest moment, because she was totally taken by surprise, and I knew she would be. And she screamed. And in that split second, I was praying in my heart, please don't shoot her. Because she was, she jumped. She was making a sudden move. And I was like, please, no.
She jumped. She was making some... Wait, how does this guy know all of this? How does this person... Didn't they say they were outside? How do they know that she jumped and made a sudden move?
Did you end up calling the police?
I also like how she dropped the dead name part, too. So where does the dead naming come in? Because I'll do this when I do my manifesto where we go side by side to compare it, because she's got like 3 or 4 different versions of this story out now. Where I thought she said they came in and they were dead naming her immediately, but now it's, they rehearsed this art. Yeah, obviously they rehearsed it, yeah. But
inquire about me?
My sister had while I was at her house, and they had
Jesus.
they misgendered you while conveying information about you being in cell. Except they actually couldn't tell us where you were basically all day. They couldn't tell us if you were at the courthouse, the police station, at the detention center. I saw you get dragged off, and I literally did not know where you were in the justice system.
Yeah, I still remember being in custody, and they were telling me that I would probably have to stay overnight in prison because I needed to go to a bail hearing, but then they let me go. But I had no way of knowing this and no way of contacting anyone until they let me go. The allegations as to how Miss Sorrenti was addressed during her time in London police custody, using an incorrect name, her dead name, and gender. It's important that he said, "While I cannot confirm any conversations which might have transpired during Miss Sorrenti's initial arrest," and that's when it happened. The activity in the holding cells is monitored.
Well, but now hold on. I hope she's going to get into this, because Alex, the person that she has on the line, said that they didn't misgender her when they initially entered the apartment, that they called her name. Clara, come out with your hands up.
And I never made a statement about any bad things that happened while I was in custody. I would absolutely assume that when the police know that these things are being recorded and can be part of public record, they would be more careful with how they go about.
Wow. So what, is she assuming that the cops were being transphobic because they knew they weren't being recorded? Even though supposedly, according to Alex, they used your correct name and pronouns when they first entered?
About their business. Some people were saying the reason that my name got into the system in the first place was because prior to the age of 16 or 17, when I legally changed my name, I had a rap sheet, which is not true. This was my first arrest in my entire life. I have never been charged with a crime.
Well, then the police were just lying. Then I guess the police chief, whatever you call this guy, he literally just lied, I guess, when he made this statement then. Because I'm pretty sure that came directly from him. The reference to Miss Sorrenti's former name appears to stem from existence of prior police reports. When an individual comes into contact with the police for whatever reason, an entry is made into our records management system using the name provided at the time. This report is merged with prior reports. Oh, or maybe she's going to say it wasn't like a criminal charge. It was just an interaction I had with the police or something. She might say something like that, actually. Maybe. That's exactly what she's going to say. It wasn't because of a charge or whatever. It was because of an interaction I had with cops in the past. That's what she's going to say.
I've never been arrested before or spent time in a cell. And in the statement itself, it says, when an individual comes in contact with police for whatever reason, an entry is made into our record management system using the name provided at that time. That report is merged with prior reports, if any, involving the same person with the same date of birth. And I think I understand why it got in the system in the first place. Because I was trying to think, okay, when is a time when a police officer took my information? And when I was 17 years old, before I had legally changed my name, I attended a pride parade and I had a super soaker. I saw that there was like a hate preacher standing with a sign about gays burning in hell. So I started spraying him in the face with the super soaker. And he took the sign, he covered his face, so I started spraying his crotch with the super soaker. And a police...
In the United States, this is assault, by the way. So now it's starting to sound like she did have a kind of rap sheet, or she was at least arrested for something, but okay.
Officer ran over to me and said that that's assault.
It is.
Give me your information. So I had to give the police officer my information. And I think that's how it got into the system. Because I can't think of another time that I had to interact with police before then.
Wait, so she's saying that a cop took her information but didn't arrest her or anything? I guess it's possible. Did cops, I don't know. I can't speak to Canadian cops. In the United States, if they're putting your shit in a database, they're arresting you, at least. Or who the fuck would just take information down to type it in somewhere and not do anything with it? Dude, where's Mad Tips at? Do you guys ever do this? Not always in the US. I know they'll sometimes ask for an ID and shit, but would they really write a name down and like enter it in some kind of database? If they're not making an arrest?
So, yeah, it's not assault. They let me go because it's a really silly thing to press assault charges for.
Well, I mean, it is assault, but...
Literally a super soaker.
Oh, I guess it could be for like a written warning or something, maybe? Who knows?
God, it was really dumb. So like, as far as I know, is there anything I missed, Alex?
I think that's really the main gist of the arrest portion, which was really the most traumatic in terms of, having the guns pointed at us, the misgendering that occurred. Yeah, that whole arrest.
Wait, so when was the misgendering? Because now I'm hearing different stories. Alex said that when they first entered the apartment, they didn't misgender. Keffal said that when she was in the jail cell, they never misgendered. Are they going to get to the part where the misgendering happened? Now, supposedly that was when they written on the bags of evidence, but I don't think they've said that yet.
That is how it happened. It wasn't straight up dynamic entry. They didn't knock the door down, but they didn't come politely knock, and then I answered the door, and I did not say, "Oh yes, officers, please come in." That's not at all how it happened. And the police statement might lead you to believe that, but it was arguably a really substantial omission on their part.
Yeah. I mean, their statement is a PR statement at the core of it. I don't expect them to acknowledge how bad the situation actually was. And there's no way of verifying it besides first-person testimony because there's no body cams in the London Police Service. Yeah, but that was like basically it. Everything that people are saying is just more misinformation. When the police chief himself is referring to it as swatting, when the deputy chief of police is saying there was no child pornography on the hard drives, and when it's already confirmed, I talked to a reporter with the London Free Press before I even started this stream, there is no body cam. There's no body cam footage. And I never at any point stated that I experienced transphobic harassment or any sort of abuse by the police while I was in custody.
Wait, does anybody have a link to her direct statement initially? Because I thought, like, the first one about, like, help, I need 100K or whatever the fuck. I'm curious what her verbiage was in that first statement. Also, where the fuck? There's, like, gonna be, like, one alien on this planet that's, like, cucking me out of clearing... Lycan just got shot down. You guys aren't giving me a timestamp, are you, huh?
On August 5th, I was woken up by London Police Services pointing an assault rifle in my face at my home. I was told later that at 6 a.m. that morning,
It's right
an email
at the fucking
impersonating me
beginning.
was sent to every city
It's the
council.
first thing she says.
I'm asking when she talks about the misgendering part. It's right at the beginning?
Yes.
How long in the beginning?
2 minutes.
What?
It's in the first 2 minutes.
First 2 minutes. Okay.
In the city of London, Ontario, stating that I have an illegal firearm, that I killed my mother, and that I plan to go to City Hall and shoot every cisgender person I see. I was shown the email while I was being interrogated in police custody. While the emails were riddled with grammatical errors and read more like something a troll would say than something I would sincerely say, the police took it seriously. Not only that, the email said my name was Clara Sorrenti, but also stated what my dead name was. It was an obvious attempt to make the police humiliate me. During the arrest, the police officer referred to me by my dead name. I was booked in the station under my dead name.
During the arrest, they used my dead name. Does that not just contradict exactly what she just said? Am I crazy?
That I experienced even started this stream, there is no body cam. There's no body cam footage. And I never at any point stated that I experienced transphobic harassment or any sort of abuse by the police while I was in custody. So I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all that I remember from the arrest. So I'm really glad I could be here to help clear the air, because there's been a lot of bullshit speculation around this.
Yeah, it's really upsetting, and I already said it. Just the speculation, it's people who only really have a vested interest in drama. And they're completely outside of... Most of them aren't even Canadian. They don't have any clue how any of this stuff works. I think one thing that was interesting, in the same article where Amar interviewed the deputy chief of police, he talked to a criminal lawyer in Toronto for the past 15 years and said that while the show of force from the London Police Service is not uncommon, given what was available to police, they should not have shown up at Sorrenti's doorstep. They were dealing with a massive threat here that they perceived as real, but they definitely should have been more diligent. And it looks like if they did a couple of computer checks, or if they made a couple of phone calls, this could have been diffused and discovered to have been false. So that being the case, I don't think it should have even occurred.
How? What is that? What does she mean when she says that? Like, the FBI have shown up to my house 3 times, but I don't blame them. Like, if you're getting people sending you videos saying I'm gonna kill conservatives and have guns and all this shit, and people are saying I'm like fucking kids or whatever, like, I don't necessarily blame them for showing up and asking questions. Like, even Ludwig was smart enough to say that he understands why when they get swatted, he knows why the cops show up in force the way they do. They kind of have to. Like, does she expect, if she really is making terroristic threats, does she think the cops are just gonna call her, like, hey, just checking, you're not planning on killing anybody, right? And she's like, nope. Like,
moreover, the lawyer noted that anytime you have this type of show of force, someone could get injured, someone could get killed. So it was a very serious situation. Yeah, Alex, thank you so much for clearing the air.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
This is going to be a long and complicated episode, Katie. I'm going to explain some things to you, and one of the things I'll explain by the end is why we just did 5 seconds of silence for the Queen.
We just had a huge argument about whether or not we should actually do this. I vociferously argued against 5 seconds of silence in the podcast. This better be fucking good, Jesse.
I just want for everyone listening to know, in terms of how difficult you are to work with, I was like, Katie, off mic, let's just do this, and then I'll explain. And then you, like, I think we did 15 different takes where you just could, it was like playing the quiet game with a 2-year-old. Can Katie Herzog stay quiet for 5 seconds?
It's a podcast. People do not want to hear silence on a podcast. That is like death on a podcast.
It's like jazz. It's like jazz. It's the words we don't say.
All right, we fucking did it. You got your way. This better make sense in the end.
Let's just get all the bullshit out of the way. Katie, what is the name of this increasingly cryptic podcast?
This is Blocked and Reported, and I'm Katie Herzog.
And I'm Jesse Single. Katie, what do you know about Keffals, Twitch, Destiny, Kiwi Farms, the Ulster Volunteer Force, the Irish Republican Army, and Cloudflare?
I am pleased to say all of these words. You could be speaking Welsh to me. What the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, yeah, this is going to be a complicated one. So for the last month or so, a hashtag has seized the imagination of Twitter and the journalists who steal all their story ideas from it.
Journalists do that? No.
Never. Not us.
Not
other
us.
journalists.
Yeah.
We would never talk about a Twitter controversy. Anyway.
That's not real journalism.
The hashtag that stole journalists' imagination is hashtag Drop Kiwi Farms. Katie, I take it you have some knowledge of this hashtag.
I do. I have seen it, yes.
Katie, Kiwi Farms has come up before on this podcast. It's a very hot button subject where if you say the wrong thing, people get mad at you on Twitter. So I'm going to ask you to explain what it is to our audience.
So Kiwi Farm.
Why is Destiny allowed to just play other people's content? John Loney. I'm not actually. I'm stealing it. Vociferously. Report me to them.
Is basically a series of message boards. It is like visually, it is sort of difficult to explain. Like get in a time machine and go back to, I don't know, 1998 and picture a website. That's sort of what it looks like. I've always found it difficult to navigate. It's a collection of gossip, rumors, oftentimes proven correct, and the users of Kiwi Farms, they're frequently, I think, mislabeled as right wingers, as reactionaries, because they oftentimes their targets will be, for instance, trans people or other like hyper online leftists, but they really are they're equal opportunity haters. And there's some, there can definitely be some bad shit on Kiwi Farms. I know a woman, someone I used to be friends with, who was doxxed on Kiwi Farms. And the reason she was doxxed is because she was married to a dude that Kiwi Farms hated. In this case, I will say, the guy she was married to was a Canadian...
Oh, ew.
Yeah. He was a Canadian white nationalist, like an actual white nationalist. And she was like incredible. She's like a trans activist, incredibly woke.
Wait, who? We must know who this is, no?
She's long been involved in trans activism. I think he sort of unveiled himself as a white nationalist during the course of their wedding, or the course of their marriage. But in this case, like...
during the wedding. If anyone else has any reason.
Yeah. So in that case... Their target was this like legit white nationalist, but she also they doxed her house for some reason, and I saw it myself. So there are definitely some innocent people who get caught up in Kiwi Farms bullshits. But that said, it is also a place that you could go to get really pretty accurate dirt on other people, especially your enemies.
So so I'll quibble with a few things just because I've had to mainline this site in the last couple of days to prepare for this. So that story you told of a trans activist being doxxed because her husband, the white nationalist, was doxxed.
And I should say she's not trans herself. She is a trans ally.
You said trans ally. Yeah. Pro-trans activist. These guys love to make fun of people they find ridiculous on the internet. And
lolcows.
They call them lolcows, laugh out loud cows. Their whole ethos is you can milk them by just watching them and observing them and ridiculing them. And the ridicule comes in the argot of like places like 4chan and the darker corners of Something Awful. It's just riddled with slurs. The slurs often...
And Something Awful is...
a very famous, very influential internet forum that like... a huge amount of internet culture flowed out of Something Awful. It had like a front page.
And it no longer exists.
Yeah, if you go to it, I mean, the last post was July 4th, 2020. There's all this backstory involving the founder. And I knew it growing up as like, they'd often just like post comedy stuff to the front page, but there were all these forums I weren't in where a lot of big name internet celebrities in like weird Twitter spaces came out of the Something Awful forums. Anyway, Kiwi Farms, if you go there, it is just these forums making fun of people really viciously. There's also, I guess, normal like sports and politics and discussion forums, but like the main reason anyone knows what Kiwi Farms is they have these threads devoted to lolcows that are solely devoted to making fun of their every move. And like you said, there's also doxing involved. They will post their personal information, they'll post photos of their houses,
oh my God,
trying to figure out where they live, do the same thing to their family members. It's like a pretty shocking and alarming place, especially if you're not used to the way, that 4chan lingo. As you also said, once in a while, they target people who should have dirt dug up on them. You can question their tactics. That's sort of what this episode's going to be about. But
wait, you think only once in a while the people they target should have dirt?
Yeah, because they have like a long thread on mentally ill internet micro celebrities whose only like harm they've done is posting weird shit to Twitter. This whole thing came out of an obsession with a guy named Christian Weston Chandler. Now, I guess Christine Weston Chandler. It's impossible. You just need to Google it. Kiwi Farms was born out of an obsession with tracking this like very weird mentally ill guy who did
so that's why Kiwi Farms started, was to track that one guy, that one lady.
It was it was born out of the folks who tracked that one guy. And I think, yeah. And
this guy, this lady, she's on trial right now, right?
I don't know. I don't want to say what you say what she's accused of.
Raping her mother. This is a trans woman. And I think probably like pretty disabled.
This is like a really disturbed person who the folks on Kiwi Farms have like tracked and ridiculed for years. There's this weird thing where some of the folks who track him and make fun of him also claim to be. And there's
sorry, that's not funny. I don't know. There's a long story behind this person. I'm sorry.
Gender thing. I'll call her, but like, there's some debate over that. But this is sort of the kind of thing Kiwi Farms does. That's like the internet celebrity that gave rise to all of this. So. I think a small number of the people they post information about and dig up dirt on deserve it, and I'll get to that. But there's a huge amount of why do you have 1,000 threads on this micro celebrity on Twitter? So that's what Kiwi Farms is. It is not a friendly place. It's very toxic, but especially if you're someone who writes or talks about it.
Wait, I need to issue a correction.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Chris Chan is not being tried for rape. This person is being tried for felony incest.
But she was.
That's a felony?
Was disabled.
Yeah, like an elderly, demented.
Yeah. This really is the best place to start if you want Kiwi Farms. Anyway, the reason normal people end up there, I think, is if they're interested in like some weird Twitter or Instagram influencer or micro influencer. There's a lot of people where if you enter their username, you will find no information on them except Twitter and Kiwi Farms. So Kiwi Farms,
and this information tends to be pretty accurate. Jesse, is that your sense?
Yes and no. We're going to get into that too. Often, yes. Because most of what they do is a large part of what they do is they just post people's screenshots. Like one thing they don't do is like make up screenshots or make up utterances. They're fastidious and obsessive about like documenting everything and archiving everything. Sometimes they spread false information, and I'll explain the context for that in approximately 8 hours when we get to the second half of this podcast. Okay. This story of Kiwi Farms centers around Keffals. Keffals, whose legal name is Clara Sorrenti, she's open about that, is a trans politics streamer on Twitch who is very, very online. We'll talk about how online she is soon, but what matters for our purposes is that on August 5th, she was swatted at her home in London, Ontario. Katie, what's swatting?
That is when somebody calls in a false threat or something like that to the police, or there's a hostage situation at this house or something like that. And the police, like a SWAT team, will show up and I suppose they probably, I don't know, do they knock on the door or do they just like bust down the door? Something like that.
Well, I keep saying we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Someone posing as Keffals, I'm just going to call her Keffals rather than Sorrenti. She goes by Keffals. Posing as her sent a really juvenile email to a bunch of local politicians in London, Ontario, claiming she had killed her mother and was going to go on a mass rampage killing cisgender people. It's a ridiculous email. It's crazy they fell for that and assigned a pretty shitty law enforcement.
And this did happen, and Keffals didn't send the email?
There's no reason to believe Keffals sent the email herself, no.
Okay.
That has happened in the past. People have faked their own swattings and harassment, but not here. Apparently someone else with a similar name, like Sorrenti, an older man somewhere else was also swatted. Luckily, no one was hurt. So Keffals, that happens August 5th. August 9th, Keffals posts to YouTube a video titled, "My life is in danger. I need your help." The first thing she says in the video is that she was woken up to an assault rifle in her face, which is the scariest situation imaginable. Just wake up and there's an assault rifle in her face.
Don't you feel like you would like wake up before the gun is in your face?
We'll get to that.
Heavy sleeper.
Keffals is taken into custody. She says she's dead named. That is, the cops use her name from before she transitioned, and they take all her electronic equipment and hold on to it for a while, apparently like cloning some of it to sort of electronically search her. So this YouTube video she posts, "My life is in danger, I need your help," is accompanied by a fundraising appeal on GoFundMe.
And what's the fundraiser for?
Say it with me. We'll get to that. Keffals also launches this campaign to get the site that she believes is responsible, Kiwi Farms, taken offline. She really goes to war against them. There's a lot of tweets. Various other activists and journalists pick up on the cause, and it gains traction. It isn't hard to know who to root for here, because on the one hand, You have a trans Twitch streamer who's an outspoken progressive and who was terrorized by having an assault rifle shoved in her face. And the other, you have, according to basically everyone, a bunch of like far-right, mouth-breathing terrorists. They're referred to as a terrorist website who despise trans people and seek solely to drive them to despair and suicide.
They call them troons.
They call them troons.
The Kiwi Farms parlance.
Troons, that's like the slur. I don't know if it's a slur. It's a derogatory name they use.
I think it's cute.
They use that to refer to someone, including Keffals, who they think is like trans for clout. In Keffals' case, it's a really ridiculous accusation because she's open about the fact that she had like surgery at a young age. So if she's chasing clout, she's doing so in a very expensive, medically intensive way. But yes, troons are what they call, what they view as clout chasing trans people. So,
how old was she
when she transitioned?
Yeah, I think we could pivot here to find out if young people are getting surgeries. Is she a minor?
I believe she was 18. So yeah, here's an example of the sort of thing she tweeted from August 22nd. Julie Terryberry, Chloe Sagal, and David Neer Ginder, or Ginder, I'm not trying to pronounce it, were targets of severe online harassment from Kiwi Farms and took their own lives as a result of it. Then she tweets at Cloudflare and its CEO, Matthew Prince, and says, honor their memory and drop them.
What is Cloudflare?
Okay, Katie, this is going to be a long-ass episode. I don't want to skip the suicide thing. Let's get back to that at the end because it's complicated. But yeah, Cloudflare is basically a company that provides a layer between someone's website and its users that gives a bunch of performance and security services. So hashtag drop Kiwi Farms is directed at Cloudflare like, why are you hosting these guys?
Wait.
A lot of people around this time seem to think that if Kiwi Farms lacks the protection Cloudflare provides against so-called distributed denial of service attacks, that's when you just like shoot a bunch of fake users at a website, they think Kiwi Farms will get attacked very easily if it isn't being protected by Cloudflare. So without Cloudflare, Kiwi Farms could be in trouble. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it also doesn't make sense because, like, why go through? It seems to me like they're targeting, Keffals is targeting the bouncer rather than the venue itself. Like, why not go after the host? Why go after the company that provides security?
Right. Well, that's good because they want to go after the host, but it's like you need to kill the bodyguard to kill the guy inside the club, basically.
Okay.
As you know.
Yeah, I definitely know.
Live shows coming up.
Oh, God.
So as this is going on, Keffals says she feels she's no longer safe at her home after the London swatting. She moves into a hotel. She posts to social media just to let them know, I'm safe, here's my cat, I'm in a hotel.
I'm confused about that. Why isn't she safe? Because she thinks that the cops are going to come after her again? Or like because she's been doxxed and she thinks somebody's going to show up at her house?
I could see, well, I think once the...
I mean, like Tim Pool gets doxxed like, I think daily. Right. I think it's like every day at noon he gets doxxed and he doesn't like move to a new location every time.
I think it's a reasonable... If your address is out and the sorts of people who would dox you have your address, why wouldn't you go somewhere else for a little while?
Okay. This is maybe I'm just not security conscious enough, but this idea of like if I were doxxed, and please don't dox me, but if I were doxxed, I don't think I would change anything about my behavior. I really don't, because I think
there's a challenge to the many people who will be pissed off by this episode.
Don't dox me, but like it's easy to find we used to have phone books, right? Like
back in the day,
the address that somebody lives in should be privileged information. I think is pretty fucking new. And because I grew up at a time where you could open the phone book and find out where anybody lived, maybe just my attitude is different about that. Also, it's hard to get to my house because it's surrounded by water and alligators and orcas. I mean, I could be totally wrong about this, but to me, this, like, doxing sounds terrible. But I'm curious about how often somebody who's been doxed, somebody actually shows up to their house in a threatening manner.
Yeah, I don't know. I think especially if this hasn't, I could see that being very scary, especially after an actual swatting. Because, anyway, she goes to her hotel, she posts from it. Her online stalkers, including some at Kiwi Farms, proceed to use the pattern on the sheets and the fact that she's in a hotel in this town to figure out what hotel she's in from Google images of the hotel rooms. Okay,
so I've interviewed a number of people who have had very credible threats made against them. And I'm thinking of some ex-Muslim activists that I've spoken to. And I've asked them talk to me about this. Talk to me about the threats. And when you talk to people who've had real credible threats against them, they do not publicly talk about it because that's the advice that you get from the FBI.
Because you don't want to make it credible, right? And everything.
Because talking about these threats
and other people will make them
tends to make them worse. It tends to exacerbate them. So I also have a little bit of a knee-jerk, okay, I've talked to people who have real fucking threats against them, and they will not talk about it in public.
And so
this idea that you should post photo, if you're in danger, that you should be posting photos from your location, to me just doesn't make any sense.
It's so stupid. Why is she posting any pictures at all? It's never gonna end. This one bug. It's never gonna end.
It's definitely, so this was just a photo of the sheets, but yeah, it's not good OPSEC, operational security, especially if you feel threatened.
It sounds like she's never talked to an expert in this, in this shit.
Either way, on August 21st, she tweets, "Hi, at Uber support. My account was hacked and had the password and email changed. Hundreds of dollars worth of food showed up on my doorstep. Can you please message me so I can remove my payment info from the hacked account and get reimbursed? There's a photo of a lot of food, so now people are hacking her personal information and charging stuff to her."
And again, she does this publicly. She doesn't contact Uber directly, or does she? And that doesn't work.
She doesn't know. This is
public.
There's no sign she contacted them privately. Everything with Keffals is public. She's a very public person, very online person. She announces in that same tweet storm that as a result of this, she's expediting a planned move to Europe. In another tweet that's part of the same thread, she again appeals directly to Cloudflare. At East Dakota, that's Matthew Prince, who's the CEO of Cloudflare. "This is why I want you to drop Kiwi Farms from at Cloudflare. Even speaking up about it has meant retaliation for me. They're going to keep trying to track me down, and you have the power to end this."
Okay, so all right, got it. So she's saying if Cloudflare drops Kiwi Farms, then Kiwi Farms will be inundated by whatever threats, and then it'll go off
attacks. She thinks. I mean, the weird implication here is that someone will attack them, which I think is illegal, but people seem to be glossy over that. But yeah, she's saying I'm going to keep getting doxxed and harassed and sent food that I didn't order and shit unless Cloudflare pulls down their protection for Kiwi Farms.
And this is, of course, all happening publicly. She's not going behind the behind the scenes to do this. This is all public.
As far as we don't know what's up with the behind the scenes stuff, but yeah, this is all public. It's a very public hashtag and appeal. And then,
of course,
not long after the hotel incident, another woman who's as far from Keffals as possible on the political spectrum, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is also swatted.
And is this because of Kiwi Farms?
The person who swats her gives the name of a Kiwi Farms user. It says, "It's me, I'm swatting you."
Okay, so Kiwi Farms is good now.
Here's a segment featuring Greene on everyone's favorite cable news network, Newsmax.
But also the police report states something else fairly alarming, that the suspect claims that he or she is connected to this website, which is a site that actually supports cyber stalking. The suspect even gave police their username. So basically, as you pointed out, this is a suspect admitted to intending to do harm via cyber stalking. You said you fully want to, prosecute whomever did this. And I'm assuming that suspect is still at large, right?
Yes, there's an investigation underway, and there's an even investigation into whether that's really the person that did this. But isn't it concerning that such a website exists? Why does that even exist? Mm-hmm. That website needs to be taken down. There should be no business or any kind of service where you can target your enemy. That's absolutely absurd. And this is the type of lawlessness that Democrats want all over the country. The Democrats are the party of defund the police, which has created crime that is going out of control all over the country. But it's also failure of our government and failure of our law enforcement to not take down a website like that. All of these types of groups need to be completely eradicated. They should not be allowed to exist. They should not be able to abuse police resources like that. And police officers, we need more police officers. We don't have enough right now.
Base Republican talking points. Hit them all.
Accidents as real emergencies and to calls where they've got to save someone's life, not be part of a prank or a potential, way to kill someone. So, that has to end.
I absolutely love this. The Democrats are the party of Kiwi Farms.
Clearly.
She definitely knows what she's talking about here.
But this likely amped up the pressure on Cloudflare because now it's like both a trans Twitch streamer, but also Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It's bipartisan. Everybody can agree.
The elephant in the room here is like, we'll get more into this too, but Kiwi Farms gets in a huge number of fights with like far right weirdos, but we'll get there. Anyway, initially, Matthew Prince holds firm. On August 31st, Cloudflare posted a long article by him and Elisa Starzak, head of public policy at Cloudflare, laying out its policies and explaining why it wasn't going to be in the business of denying protections to websites that request it. It read in part, some argue that we should terminate these services to content we find reprehensible so that others can launch attacks and knock it offline. That is the equivalent argument in the physical world that the fire department shouldn't respond to fires in the homes of people who do not possess sufficient moral character. Both in the physical world and online, that is a dangerous precedent, and one that is over the long term most likely to disproportionately harm vulnerable and marginalized communities. So they just lay this out as like, this is not a political thing. We can't be in the business of picking winners and losers in terms of who gets basic protection against internet attacks, which is like sort of, an echo of the classical liberal free speech position, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. It also, it would seem like it would be a good business move, but I'm guessing that they got a ton of pushback from this.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on real quick. If I do this F4 menu, check show enemy expansion candidate chunks. This will show you where the nests are. Is that cheating? Wait, I don't even see where that is. That feels like cheating.
They did. There's a whole campaign to get them to drop Kiwi Farms, and it's important to point out that this is like a whole other level of the discussion about free speech on the internet, because it's one thing to argue whether Graham Linehan should be on Twitter or Megan Murphy or what Facebook's policy should be about scientifically questionable coronavirus stuff. Those questions, like whatever you think about them, and we're on the more liberal side of those, I think, those questions do come down to private companies making decisions about like who is allowed to be in their community. The folks who are okay with those forms of moderation or censorship or whatever you want to call it, they'll often say something like, if you can't follow the terms of service, Graham Linehan, go start your own website. Go find your own community where you can be as toxic as you want. But this is different because when you get
and then they try to get that one shut down too.
Fuck.
A, true. B, this thing with Cloudflare is different because when you get into the territory of pressuring a company like Cloudflare to withdraw its protection from websites you don't like, Cloudflare is one of the backbones of the internet in a certain sense, and you're taking a very, very big step in the direction of like certain people just aren't going to be allowed to be on the internet at all.
Yeah, this reminds me more, I think it's more analogous to like pressuring Amazon Web Services to take a site like Parler offline than it is, Twitter kicking James Lindsay off of the platform.
Yeah, there are two different levels, but this is like a serious escalation of the potential threats to free speech from like big companies, unaccountable companies.
Yeah.
Okay. So August 31st, Cloudflare is holding steady, not going to drop Kiwi Farms. Then 3 days later, total 180. Washington Post headline. Under pressure, security firm Cloudflare drops Kiwi Farms website. I'm going to read a little bit from that article. As Kiwi Farms has felt more threatened, they have reacted by being more threatening. Matthew Prince told the Post, we think there is an imminent danger, and the pace at which law enforcement is able to respond to those threats we don't think is fast enough to keep up. Now, please keep that second sentence in mind for the rest of this episode. We think there's an imminent danger. The pace at which law enforcement is able to respond to those threats we don't think is fast enough to keep up. After Cloudflare's announcement, if you went to Kiwi Farms, you were blocked, and you got this very alarming note. Due to an imminent and emergency threat to human life, the content of this site is blocked from being accessed through Cloudflare's infrastructure. That's intense.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning here that Cloudflare did hold steady until some mainstream outlets started reporting on this. And this is something that Glenn Greenwald has pointed out. NBC, they have their misinformation team. They published an article about this. And really quickly after that, Cloudflare gave in.
How is it so hard?
I didn't follow that side of the timeline as closely, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. Let me read a little bit more from an article in Ars Technica, which is like one of the leading tech websites in the world. We definitely had complaints coming in. Alyssa Starzak, Cloudflare's VP, Global Head of Public Policy, told ours. But if you were watching even mainstream social media over the weekend, what you saw are some things that were really direct threats, some very specific information about things that were planned. That escalation is what started to worry us, she told ours. That's really what prompted us to act over the weekend. This is now back to the reporter's voice. There was no time to involve law enforcement and allow for due process, Cloudflare decided. Again, everyone listening, keep that in mind too. There was no time to involve law enforcement. This was a new level of violence unlike that seen in prior high-profile cases. In those instances, Cloudflare waded through a legal process before blocking similarly hateful forums like 8chan in 2019 or the Daily Stormer in 2017. Then it quotes Matthew Price again saying, there's an unprecedented emergency and immediate threat to human life unlike what we've previously seen before.
Okay, I can't. It's impossible.
There's this sense from Cloudflare that this is an absolutely unprecedented situation, almost historical on the internet. This is basically one of the most dangerous websites they've ever come across, and they had no choice but to yank it immediately without involving the authorities.
Okay, well, what happened? What were they talking about? What sort of threats were these? What were they planning on Kiwi Farms?
There's almost a complete absence of detail, with a couple exceptions I'll get to in a minute. But either way, this just continues this like rolling or snowballing or whatever you want to call it panic, and it just gets more and more intense. So on September 6th, Keffals announces, quote, Kiwi Farms has been removed from the Internet Archive. The archives of all the threads of people made on Kiwi Farms are gone.
That's a huge fucking shame.
Under Keffals' tweet, the top response by @faceplant00, wait a minute, what? I don't even know what this Kiwi Farm story is about, but it seems like within a week the entire site was erased, deplatformed, depersoned, and even removed from the Internet Archive? Is anyone else concerned with the amount of power being wielded here? To which my only response @faceplant00 is, wow, way to be a literal fucking Nazi.
Yeah, right. Hey, I think we should probably explain what the Internet Archive is for like my parents listening to this right now.
Okay, yeah, the Internet Archive is basically, it's what it sounds like. It's the site, the Wayback Machine that you can use to check old web pages and how they looked at different times. It's like a really important resource, and it is incredibly unusual for them to just wipe an archive. My understanding, and I did send them an email for comment, is they usually only do this if like you own a website and you don't want it archived. They'll honor those requests.
Yeah, I've done that.
For what?
For a blog that I kept in my 20s.
What was the name of the blog? Where can we find it?
I'm fucking telling you. Yeah, I had them take the whole thing down. Which
cringe alert.
From a journalist perspective, the Internet Archive is a really valuable and important resource because, for instance, like major outlets will stealth edit their articles, and you can go back to the Internet Archive and find them. This is a really important resource from a personal perspective and the perspective of a blogger who made some questionable decisions in their 20s. Being able to hide those archives is also really valuable. And there's some real tension here, you know. And I'm sort of torn about it because from a journalist perspective, I absolutely don't think that that you should be able to sort of unilaterally decide that these things are not going to be archived. But from a personal perspective, and somebody who's you know interested in things like cancel culture, I can also see why there are things that are online that people don't want following them around for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Now I'm going to try to track down. I bet the website was like, "This is America. We speak English here." .blogspot.com.
It was buildthewall.com.
I loved that response from Faceplant because it's just so naive. It's just like the most basic, like, yeah, this is kind of weird how quickly this is happening. But I feel like among the journalists writing about this, it was hard to sort of, I mean, it's Twitter. It's always hard to like disagree with the crowd, but there's just very little questioning of any of this. And
yeah, Taylor Lorenz said that that after it got taken down from the Internet Archive, it was a massive W, a massive win.
Yeah,
that is, and I do think that you can acknowledge the contradictions and the conflicts between like wanting to preserve information, but also thinking that people should have the right to some privacy in some cases. But from a journalist, to see journalists championing this was really disturbing to me.
It's strange because, like, as a journalist, you want access to information and you should err on the side of keeping information available, especially in a case like this where no one at Kiwi, Josh Moon, who's the head of Kiwi Farms, who we'll get to, he didn't want to take it down. So I think the idea is just it has so much harmful information that it had to go. But
by the way, Taylor Lorenz also, she has also gotten her tweets wiped from the Internet Archive, as an aside.
Is that the case?
Really?
Yeah. You can anybody can do it. You just write them and you say, don't archive this, and they will not archive it. Anybody can do it.
It doesn't even stop with the Internet Archive. Like Saturday morning, I get an email that ISNIC, I guess that's how it's pronounced, that's basically the Icelandic internet, like any site with a .is suffix. They've booted Kiwi Farms, which had been running from the kiwifarms.is domain lately, although up and down. So this is now venturing like well outside my areas of expertise, but this is extremely unusual. Like in the case of ISNIC, the only times they've done this in the past involved the Pirate Bay, which like explicitly did illegal activity by like, music and
dark web selling shit.
I thought the Pirate Bay, I thought they just did like movies and music and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right?
The Pirate Bay is just a torrent site.
Yeah, it was like Napster. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, Napster at its peak was amazing. Not that I would ever use
Yeah,
it.
it was.
Other
But
examples.
now you just like search shit on Spotify and it's free. You don't even need Napster.
Exactly. Other examples were like the Daily Stormer and literal Islamic State propagandists. So in this case, like Kiwi Farms is literally getting lumped in with terrorist websites. That's like the storyline. That's how dangerous things have gotten. That's how evil and violent Kiwi Farms is.
In Kiwi Farms, they briefly reappeared under like a .ru name, right? That's a Russian domain name.
There was .ru, there was .top. They also put it.
What's TOP?
I don't know. They had a so-called Onion site, which is like a dark website you can only access via. I had to fucking download Tor for you people. I still don't know what Tor is, but I had to get to the website. You had to enter this like unbelievably long and random string of characters, and then / and then it was just like the normal. It was so it's been
Poor Jesse.
at sometimes very hard to access the site. So it's been sort of this.
And what were people saying when you were able to access it?
Interestingly, Josh Moon, who is like the most defiant, fuck everybody type of guy, which he doesn't help his cause with that, he shut down the threads about Keffals because he's just like, we're not going to respond to Twitter drama. He basically like, he was communicating with other Kiwi Farm folks through Telegram, which is, you can't really shut anyone down on Telegram, I don't think. And he
Not yet.
basically just said they were in a precarious situation, and everyone.
So he's trying to save the site.
He's basically trying to save the site, yeah. And this is a site that has like survived past takedown attempts because they have they probably have more enemies than any website that isn't like part of a sectarian movement or religious movement.
Right.
It's like loathed by probably thousands of people who have been victimized by it in certain senses.
And Jesse. So that quote from that the Cloudflare people gave to the Washington Post, this idea that there's this uptick in violent, imminent threats on Kiwi Farms, was that real?
I really don't think so. This is where everything gets even weirder. As far as I can tell, folks could only point to 2 posts on Kiwi Farms out of like 50,000 literally about Keffals that were violent during this period. 2 posts, both of them are highly sus, as the kids say. That's a thing, right? Being sus.
Does that mean suspect or suspicious?
Aren't those synonyms?
I guess so.
Let's take them one at a time. Matthew Prince announces he's changing course on September 3rd, late in the day. Earlier that day, Keffals posted the following. Ellen, I should have said this, Ellen Murray is also a Twitch streamer. That's the friend she's staying with.
Did you just dox her?
No, this is all public. That's the friend in Belfast she's staying with, or was at the time. Ellen is live on Twitch and told her chat she was planning to take me to a poutine shop in Belfast so I can see how Irish poutine holds up. Kiwi Farms users already mapped out every poutine shop in the city, and one of them posted this. She includes a screenshot of a post that shows a Kiwi Farms user referencing a URL to a poutine place and saying, just rang up a couple of lads down in Belfast and asked them.
Wait, you should moderate this Mr. Go convo. It's a dumpster fire? Hold on, quick detour.
I feel like
what I'm saying is this conversation is fucking retarded, and that
okay.
Ariel being black means nothing to me, and it shouldn't mean anything to you. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Okay.
Essentially. And this is really frustrating.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the interesting things we could talk about are, why do I want to empathize with conservative white people? And how am I empathizing with them? What do I think about this? I think that's not a conversation many people are having. I feel like that's probably why people are watching. They're like, well, I want to see what Max is going to say. Like, I'm left-leaning. I'm a Jew. And yet and what do these people say? Jews will not replace us? Like, these people hate me, right? But still, I still have empathy for them, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk through that. I want to explain what I see. I want to validate what they're seeing, because I see some of the same trends and certainly some of the same values that they're seeing. It's not couched in the same racist conspiratorial way as the far right, but kind of normal conservatives who are white but I don't think are racist are still having a bad reaction. I want to empathize with them without lumping them in with
I
Nazis.
empathize with people who are anti-woke and think that this is a cash grab. Like I said earlier.
Okay, I think that's one interesting thing we could talk about, but I feels like you don't. I feel your palm pressing into my nose. On the
I
pillow.
feel the same way with what you're doing to me.
The topic we agreed to talk about was my concerns about the Little Mermaid being black. We're not doing that. Wait, you're actually preventing that from happening.
Yeah.
Every time I say I have a concern, you say I shouldn't, or that the thing I'm concerned about isn't happening. And you bounce back and forth between the two, alternatingly saying, this isn't happening, okay, it is happening, but you shouldn't be upset. But here's what I think's happening, and here's what... None of that is actually you listening to anything I'm saying. Or...
Because this whole time, I feel like it's been over an hour, you just got me to agree to you with what you feel like is the overall progressive monolith. And you're just setting all this stuff up. And it's not a conversation. It's just not.
Yes, this is just me laying down the premise before I haven't even started saying much of what I actually think. Because it took you half an hour to agree to the premise that progressives have a value, that whiteness that the urge to preserve whiteness is a bad thing. That is obviously a progressive value, and it's just you're not even letting me lay out the premise of what I think. So I haven't really said anything, I think.
Well, Listen, I've lost patience with you, and I'm gonna go.
Oh no!
The other thing we could have talked about. Okay, if you start watching the stream after leaving.
Okay.
To plant bombs in all of these places. Also, 3 armed men will be at each place waiting.
That's a joke, right? Obviously. It's a fucking joke.
It's not, if this was about me, I would be alarmed. I guess the question is, do you think Kiwi Farms or anyone on it has the ability to summon a paramilitary force to monitor all the poutine shops in Belfast?
Yeah, it depends on how many poutine shops there are in Belfast.
I don't think any place outside Eastern Canada is a major poutine center.
It's Canada's only export.
Okay, so this brings us to Josh Moon. He's the guy who founded and runs Kiwi Farms, and he sort of has a supervillain persona that he absolutely leans into. After Cloudflare made its announcement, he did a post arguing that as soon as this threat was posted, it was immediately reported by members of the community, downvoted, and that the author of the post pulled it down just a few minutes after Keffals tweeted a screenshot of it.
So they're self-regulating.
That's what he's claiming. Another Kiwi farmer provided this approximate timeline where at 3:42, this account, at Washizu Iwao, makes the post. 9 minutes later, Keffals screen caps it. 2 minutes after that, Keffals tweets it. Then the post is deleted 1 minute later. This would mean that the post was up for a total of 14 minutes before it was pulled down. And it was pulled down by the author himself. Josh initially said... a moderator pulled it down, but then he crossed that out and said actually it was pulled down by the person who posted it.
And Keffals must spend a lot of time on Kiwi Farms, right?
I think by this point in this conflict, a huge number of Keffals fans were monitoring Kiwi Farms to see what's going on there and to wait for something like this to happen. Because why wouldn't you, right?
Right. Is it possible that Wazuzu Awawao is a Keffals stan who wants to use this threat? Is this what's the word for this?
False flag.
A reverse cowgirl? Is that the word for this?
What?
Yeah, that's definitely a reverse cowgirl daisy chain.
A Foky Pierre?
Is that
Moon, in his
term?
statement, Moon just basically argues like this person isn't like a real active member of the community. They only commented in the Keffals thread. Quote, this appears to be a sleeper account someone had gotten access to in July and kept on hand to use like this.
I think it was a joke.
So that's what Josh Moon is going with. This is not a genuine member of our community. This is like a false flag type of thing.
Okay, yeah, false flag. That's the word, not reverse cowgirl. Gotcha.
I think they're synonyms more or less. Girl, do you want a false flag? So here's what he said in his post.
Right now.
The precedent has been set. At Cloudflare, with enough pressure, a single post by a strange account can be made to threaten a 9-year-old community and the tens of thousands of people who have used it every day for years. I think the evidence at least partially supports the idea that this was some kind of false flag. I say that because you can just read the archive of Keffal's thread if you're a masochist and see that violent threats are not the style of Kiwi Farms. It's all just highly toxic ridicule, frequently using racial and ethnic slurs, often not in a way that fits. Like they will call one another the N-word, even when everyone involved is white. They do seem to have specific norms against interfering with their targets. They call it A-logging or touching the poo. Like you can see this if you just read the post, which I think a lot of people reporting on the site didn't do. It's roughly analogous to how in like 4chan and its spin-off communities, earnestness is a sign of weakness. Like you're a pussy if you have feelings about something.
Peaceler, Jesse.
You're a peaceler. I think you know that like 4chan image, like you mad?
Unironically, call Maxine to make Oki leave. Oh, that was the Oki guy. Oh, he wanted to talk to me. Fuck, I need to return his Twitter DMs. I don't know anything about anybody on the internet, dudes.
Do you know you mad? Like letter U mad?
What's the image of?
I think it's just like this trolly 4chan image, but the whole ethos behind you mad is I'm the troll. If I can get you to react,
I got you.
Yeah, I got you. So from the perspective of Kiwi Farms users, or some of them at least, this is what they claim. Yes, we're going to dox these people. We're going to ridicule them. But
let's say you think it was a false flag. Do you think Chance Keffals would try to do the same to GG? Yes. I already gave a big speech earlier about that like I'm being ultra anal, that if you even jokingly make posts about like bombing anybody or doxing anybody, or you reference the actual websites where her docs are posted, you're getting perma-banned from my community. Ultra nuke banned. 1,000,000%. I do think that Keffals and her community will absolutely try to false flag my community. They probably did it to Kiwi Farms. They've probably done it to other communities. I expect to see it in mine. If you joke about it, you will get fucking nuked. Just as a heads up, even if you're a longtime member of my community, I will nuke the fuck out of you.
But if you fuck with them directly, you're A-logging. You're touching the poo, and that's frowned upon.
They should not do the doxing thing, because if they're just making fun of people, then there'd be no legitimate claim to shut down the site. They kind of fuck themselves on that. Also, it's wrong.
I was gonna say the same thing. Like, like if Moon was just like, they seem to like sort of worship this guy. He goes by Null on the site, Null. Whatever he says goes. He seems so obsessed with the idea of being able to get away with everything they can legally. And in the vast majority of cases, it's legal to search for people's public information and post it, that he just like, he won't compromise. But you're right. If it wasn't for the doxing, if it was just another site making fun of everyone.
A post on the Vaush Reddit claimed you linked Keffals Kiwi Farms docs. Did this actually happen? In my chat, I linked Kiwi Farms one time. The reason why I linked Kiwi Farms is because Keffals claimed that she was getting harassed and I think doxed by my community. And I said, no, that's not true. Here's a Kiwi Farms thread where she's already got 50 pages in like one day. That's the only time I've ever linked. I've never linked directly to her docs. I never encourage people to participate. I only linked that to show that like this is where the harassment is coming from. It's not coming from my community. And Kiwi Farms is a banned term in my chat. Most people don't even know what the fuck Kiwi Farms was in my community. Oh, I think there are logs in my chat of me linking it. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't 50 pages. It was 400. Destiny. Today, Keffal said most of the harassment she receives is from this community, so you're going to play into that narrative. I don't know if she actually believes that or she's just trying to throw you under the bus for everything. And then I said, at Punished Fury, she is a subhuman cretin fucking filth lying about that. She has zero evidence, and she has over 400 pages of thread on her at Kiwi Farms, and then this is the thread. And I said, it's 1,000,000% obvious the harassment is coming from there. This is the only time I've ever linked it. I'm not directing people to go there and harass her. but okay.
I said people got mad at me, but a lot of these threads are not that different from Twitter, except for the doxing and the slurs.
This is the thing that has driven me crazy about this site, or about the dialogue, the discourse about this site, is that I see people on Twitter talking about how Kiwi Farms, how there's these suicides, how it's death threats, how they dox people. And it's like, you are saying this on a site where that same shit happens.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
no, it's been...
Why aren't you trying to get Twitter shut down?
And in some cases, the same people complaining about Kiwi Farms and celebrating getting shut down, I know for a fact, participate in what can only be called harassment campaigns against people they hate.
Dude, if people are pissed about Kiwi Farms doxing Keffals, the people who are outraged about this, how do they feel about Kiwi Farms doxing Marjorie Taylor Greene? I would really love to know, because I think they'd be fine with it, because Nazis bad.
Yeah.
Alex Goldman.
Alex Goldman is a good example. He former host of Reply All, before that show melted down completely in a ridiculous controversy we covered that Alex would not lift a finger to defend his friend over. But he tweeted some shit about, I don't want to make this about our internet beef, so I'll be brief, but he was like, oh, Jesse Single's defending Kiwi Farms, which I wasn't. Alex watched...
He also called me your much dumber host. I think slightly dumber. I do not think much dumber.
Right, that's online harassment.
Much dumber. That's also elitist just because you went to Stanford and I went to Yale. I think that's elitist.
Jesus, why the fuck are these guys so educated? Fuck me, dude.
Alex watched as all of media Twitter piled on his friend PJ Vogt in the most ridiculous, over-the-top pile-on.
Wait. Oki has returned.
Like I said before I left, right? You're presenting me this kind of like monolith of progressives and just asking me to agree with everything. And then anytime I try and like add any like context or nuance to it, you tell me that I'm changing the subject, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was frustrating. And I took a second. I kind of breathed and like, I feel like I'm all right now. But, again, okay. I like your content. I
like your content.
So yeah, no hard feelings, I guess.
Yeah, it's a provocative conversation, and I've been told I'm
4 hours and cut the VOD. True.
Frustrating person to talk to.
Yeah. Well, experiencing it firsthand is different from watching it, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm good to talk about like pretty much like the Disney thing. Like,
okay.
Again, like the way I started it when I was talking about like I think that the whole thing.
Okay.
Now, these are journalists writing under their own names, and they went to good schools, so they're not doxing him, they're not using slurs, but it's the same fucking shit. It's the same shit. They're trying to ruin his life, trying to make him destroy his reputation. And Alex briefly unblocked me, and we had a brief exchange that wasn't toxic. I flipped out because he said that we were gleeful. PJ got fired when we defended.
What?
It's the opposite. We defended PJ when Alex didn't say shit. Anyway.
Alex said nothing.
I said a few...
And we're like, PJ doesn't like us.
So
we're not friends with this guy. Alex was his fucking partner, and he said nothing while PJ was being destroyed.
This is already such a complicated episode to follow, and we're just adding a whole other thing. Long story short, I said to Alex also said that actually it's good to make fun of people who are racist or transphobic. Well, you know what? They decided your buddy PJ Vogt was racist. That was the claim. PJ Vogt's a racist because of some fucking Byzantine union bullshit at Gimlet, and half of media Twitter piled onto PJ Vogt in a way where you don't know what someone's mental health is. Like, getting piled on sucks, man. To watch your entire community turn against you, that's the kind of shit that does lead to, it can contribute to at least, things like suicide. We've had instances of people killing themselves. It's not monocausal. You can't say it was because of the online harassment, but it's a contributing factor. So,
except when it comes to Kiwi Farms. When it's Kiwi Farms,
then they're the only factor.
It is monocausal.
Right. So that to me really captured it. Watching someone like Alex Goldman, who has firsthand experience of his friend getting brutally raked over the coals for nothing, then saying, no, it's good to harass people online. Like, fuck that. So I found there to be so much hypocrisy from the folks gleeful that this site's being pulled down. Like you said, the doxing is awful. It also isn't illegal. And we're talking about the question of whether the site should exist at all, not whether you should go to it or whether we should like it or celebrate it. We're in like a more existential internet area now. Should it be allowed to exist? To me, that's where you get to the question of, is it doing stuff that's illegal?
And this is not like, go ask a normie on the street what Kiwi Farms is, and they're going to tell you it's a place where kiwis are grown. That's it. Like, people don't know about this site. It doesn't have until now, it didn't have a high profile outside of hyper online spaces.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we got an email, or I got an email from someone who basically was trying to defend the farms to me. I didn't agree with all of it. I'll just read this one bit. Also, I'm sure you've come across this line already, but it is totally against board culture to interact with the lolcows in any way, let alone harass or threaten. Anyone who does post interactions or threats gets the equivalent of downvoted to hell, and the mods are quick to delete the worst. That said, there's that plausible deniability thing, because you have 2,300 pages of people talking shit about Keffals. The idea that combined with posting her personal information is not going to lead to some people harassing her is kind of ridiculous, is it not?
Sure, but like some people harassing her, I mean, I think there has to be a really clear line between like credible death threats, things like swatting, and making fun of people online, even if it's cruel, even if it's mean. Like, this is shit that happens to everybody who has a large platform. It happens to you, it happens to me, and at some point, you have to learn to ignore it. Or you turn into someone like Jesse Single, just crazy.
Just tweeting at Alex Goldman, demanding satisfaction.
Yeah, demanding retractions.
Anyway, I don't think it's credible for Kiwi. Like, I think it's true that the board culture is against direct harassment, but I think they're a little bit full of shit here. Also, I talked to a streamer, who I won't name, who hates Keffals, and he was like, that's not true. Some Kiwi Farms people do harass people. So I think like it would be silly to pretend there's no harassment that directly comes
Oh my God, who could that streamer be?
I mean, that's the thing though, like Twitter is a platform where harassment is encouraged by the very algorithm. Like the trending topics feed you people to harass.
Literally. This is who you should make fun of right now.
Right. Like the Queen just died and Twitter has been 3 days of glee about this. It's not that different from Kiwi Farm.
This is why no matter how, like, we can try to be somewhat measured with Kiwi Farms. It's a pretty shitty place. It incites harassment. We will never be able to get to a place where we will explain exactly why it's different. Because other than the slurs, which is, it's aesthetic. The slurs thing is not really, people don't kill themselves because they are slurs. It's because everyone is telling you to kill yourself and telling you you're a bad person. They're just not that different. And I wish people would like grapple with that a little. When I explained this to Goldman, he responded by blocking me again. He's not, people don't want to hear it. Anyway.
Okay, wait, one more thing about this. Kiwi Farms, so is the idea that Kiwi Farms harassment transcends Kiwi Farms, or is the idea, or does it stay on Kiwi Farms, right? Because there's a difference between like harassment, like showing up in your inbox and people emailing you, or showing up at your house.
Do you agree? Yeah, I think that at this point, probably over the past like 3 or 4 years, a lot of the progressive communities have become like insane, to where like bullying, harassing, encouraging people to like implicitly like kill themselves or remove themselves from the internet, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's become a little bit too common in these far left circles. You're starting to see like body shaming, bullying, dick jokes, anti-male jokes, anti-white jokes, et cetera, et cetera. I think that the culture is pretty similar to any like online bullying community, especially when you look at figures like Keffals or like Demon Mama, or even Hassan or Vaush. Those Vaush statements, I still can't believe the Vaush statements against that one British girl. Holy shit. That was wild. I think the cultures are pretty similar. The only difference is progressives feel like they have like a moral mandate because of who they bully, so it's a little different for them.
And actually going to the site and looking at like yourself, digging into it. And
there's still a difference between people on Twitter engaging in harassment and Kiwi Farms being dedicated to harassment. Okay. Where's Abba to say, you're gonna get clipped, bro? Okay, so Kiwi Farms, by and large, okay? This is how harassment comes from Kiwi Farms, okay? Kiwi Farms is not a site where you go to harass people. It's a site where you go to gossip and talk shit about people. That's generally what Kiwi Farms is. You find somebody, they seem like a fucking joke, you make a threat about them, and then you and a bunch of other people gather all the information you can about their life to basically make fun of them. Now, other people will go to Kiwi Farms to dig up information about people to harass them with that information. That's how harassment comes from Kiwi Farms, right? When people want to bug Mr. Medicare, or Jesse even said it himself, if you want to get dirt on somebody, you go to Kiwi Farms, you say they have a thread. If they have a thread, you use that information to harass the fuck out of them. You can use it to dox them, or they've already doxed you, use it to swat them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's how harassment kind of can come from Kiwi Farms. But Kiwi Farms itself is not a harassment board. It feels stupid to say this because if you've ever read a single thread in your entire life, you'll know this. Nobody in threads is talking about like, okay, guys, we're gonna hit his Twitter offline here. I'm trying to break into his email account. Somebody should DDoS his fucking stream when he's doing this. Oh my God, we should mass plug this. Those conversations don't happen on Kiwi Farms. People don't do that. You might find somebody that stumbles into a thread and does shit like that, but usually they'll get told to fuck off, or we're not your personal army. That was a popular 4chan one. People will thumbs down, or they have their little fucking flare that they put on threads when they don't like it when people post shit. But it's not supposed to be a board where everybody goes to harass people. It's not like a rating platform, okay? It's not like the X boards on 4chan. You either know or you don't know. Or invasion. Fuck, that was me. I fucked it up. It's been a long time. But like, yeah, there's that's just not what they do at Kiwi Farms. So it's when somebody says like, oh yeah, Kiwi Farms is like a targeted harassment hate raid site. No, it's not. That's just not what they do there. Anybody that spent any amount of time on Kiwi Farms knows that that's just not what it is. But when farmers say shit like, oh, no harassment whatsoever comes from our site, bullshit. You know there are a lot of people that go to Kiwi Farms to look up those threads, to use those threads to harass the fuck out of people. That's obviously true. Everybody knows that's the case. But it's not like a rating board or whatever.
For 2,000 fucking pages making fun of me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, but the whole claim is about the former, about it extending off of. If it was just on Kiwi Farms.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
That's the claim, is that it leads to harassment beyond Kiwi Farms by Kiwi farmers. So I was surprised at the difference between how the site was being described by a lot of outlets. They really made it out to be a place where like a bunch of people gathered together to find a way to kill and assault people. The reality is it's a brutal and vicious place, but it just is.
Does Kiwi Farms have any excuse for why doxes are posted? What purpose does that serve other than enabling harassment? It's like, think of like the most autistic gossip board you could ever fucking find, and that's why they post shit. They want to like meticulously collect any detail ever, because chances are what they'll use if you are actively posting on Kiwi Farms, what you're really looking to do with the docs is use that docs to gossip about the person or find more embarrassing details about the person. So somebody might dox you to find out that like you still live with your mom, or somebody might dox you to find out that like you're paying too much for your house, or that you're lying about which state you live in, or shit like that. That's why they post docs, because they're just artistically and meticulously collecting like every piece of info that they can get on somebody's life. But they're not doxing you so that they can like swat you or show up at your house to like bully you or shit like that. That's not generally why those are posted. How the fuck is that not harassment? I mean, like, it's because it's not supposed to leave the site. If you want to autistically quibble with me over semantics, you could do that. But like, there's a difference between a board that's made like an invasion board that you're making to go and set up hate raids versus people that are like autistically gossiping about you. I don't know if I would consider it, in its idealized form, it's not supposed to be harassment, but realistically, some of the stuff probably gets taken and used as harassment, of course. Meteor point defense. Wait, that's not what I'm looking for. Or other people will go to the boards to find stuff to harass you with. Meteor defense installation. That's what I'm looking for. Would your mind change if some internal messages leaked from like admins and stuff that showed an intent to harass? I don't know. I don't think so. Because the boards themselves are fairly self-policing. If the admins wanted to make the intention to harass, they do a really bad job at it, like so bad that it wouldn't matter. I think something that would change my mind is if you could show that there were, and there might have been other threads on that site that like, where everybody in the thread was like, we're gonna go and harass this person, or we're gonna go and bully this person. That would make me change my mind. But like some secret intent of the admins wouldn't be enough. Or you'd have to actually show that there were threads set up for like purposes, or there were a lot of people in those threads harassing and being supported by others harassing people, which I don't think that is the case.
Isn't used in that way because they do have those pretty strong norms against touching the poo. And again, as soon as this specific threat popped up, 7 users reported it, and it was pulled down by its own author 14 minutes later.
And that's the poutine threat, right?
The poutine threat. As it's not don't touch the poutine. Something similar happened with the other threat on Kiwi Farms. On September 4th, 2 days prior to the one I just talked about, Keffals tweeted, calling...
Do people from Kiwi Farms itself even go after people like that? I feel like anytime I've heard about the site, it's when someone pokes them. Generally, they're supposed to be pretty self-contained. I think that's how they generally fly under the radar too, unless people are actively fighting with them. So no internal messaging from admin center would change your mind. Nothing conceivably they could have written to each other privately. No, but you'd have to show me threads where it's happening. Hate raids and targeted harassment don't happen because admins are talking about it behind the scenes. They would come from the users of the site. Now, unless you're saying that like internally the admins themselves were like harassing people. There were like 5 admins who were like, okay, we're gonna take all this info, go harass somebody, then maybe, but. How much Kiwi Farm is being directly or indirectly used to harass people but not from its core user would be needed to convince you? What do you mean by hold on. Back up, okay? Arjun, okay, hold on. Emotionally unplug yourself from what I'm saying, okay? You have to shut down the lizard part of your fucking brain right now, okay? Because I think you're inside your brain, you're hearing like, Destiny's defending Kiwi Farms, I have to fight, I've got a white knight. No, shut the fuck up, unplug, okay? I've already told you that Kiwi Farms is certainly used as a place where people go and find information to harass people. Also, there are probably people on Kiwi Farms themselves that probably go and harass people. That almost absolutely. There are probably people on my site that go and harass people. Almost absolutely. But what I'm saying is the general culture of Kiwi Farms was not to accept that type of behavior. If you posted on a thread and you said, all right, guys, I'm going to go and get this dude's Twitter, like, let's all go and spam shit him, people are going to downvote you, make fun of you, and call you a loser, and Null might show up and ban you from the thread. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that no one has ever done it ever. Nobody's ever gone to Kiwi Farms and harassed somebody. I'm not saying that. Obviously, there are people on those threads that do that. Of course there are. I'm just saying that it wasn't the general culture of the boards. From what I've seen. Now, maybe there are other threads where that is the case. I've only read like 5 or 6 threads on Kiwi Farms, and not even all. I didn't read all of Keffal's threads. There's like 20 million fucking pages. But I mean, I've read all of my thread. I've seen Near's thread. I've seen threads on some of the people surrounding me. Ralph, Nick. I don't know if Nick had his own thread or if he would just show up on others. Lauren would show up on others. DSP's thread. I think I said Ralph's thread, like. So it facilitates harassment. The super interesting limit. Suppose you have a form that facilitates illegal activity, say like Silk Road's thoughts. I don't know, but Silk Road would be different because I'm pretty sure Silk Road facilitated actual illegal activity. I don't think there's anything illegal about harassing on the internet. Do you think the culture of Kiwi Farms led to an increase of harassment of lolcows? Yeah, for sure, of course.
In death threats to the police has become a regular part of my life because of this campaign. This is the second bomb threat this week. This post read, I'm going to read the slur, don't get mad at me, this is what the person said. Fuck this dumb tranny cunt. I'm planning to fly to Ireland. Is Keffal still there? I seriously want to shoot that dumb bitch. I will plant bombs around the place they're staying in as well. Someone give me the address.
All right, that's bad.
Keffal says, I've had to talk to the police more in Ireland than I have in Canada. This website should be illegal.
I feel like Keffal shouldn't have told people that she was moving to Ireland.
Yep.
To circumvent some problems here.
So this threat was not from Keffal's own thread on Kiwi Farms. It was from the thread on the Drop Kiwi Farms hashtag, which of course was just more people talking shit about Keffals. If you go to Kiwi Farms, you will see people mentioning this post. The post itself is gone. The first response I can see is someone posting this user's history with their user image, which is a furry. This was posted by a furry, because of course
it was a fucking furry.
Of course, at some point this story was going to involve a furry. They only have 2 posts in their entire user history on Kiwi Farms. One is this one, and the other is one claiming that Brenton Tarrant, the Christchurch mosque killer, didn't do anything wrong, and that there should be an even bigger massacre against Muslims in the UK.
Oh wow, nice.
So the implication is clear by this other Kiwi Farms poster posting their user history. They're just a troll. They're only here to post like horrific stuff. After posting images of their history, this Kiwi Farms user says, quote, go back to wiping Biden's ass. Glow N-word.
You gotta say it, Jesse.
No, he doesn't.
Say it.
Go back to wiping Biden's ass. Glow N-word. This was liked by 18 users, and the post was taken down after. The post was taken down by the moderators. Katie.
Okay, what's a glow N-word?
A glow N-word, according to Urban Dictionary, a government agent, FBI, NSA, CIA, ATF, making bait posts on forums and image boards to entrap individuals or gather intelligence. The purported goal of Glow N-words is baiting potential criminals or gather intelligence about a particular online community to reveal their intentions or beliefs. So do you get what's going on with this user accusing the other user of being a Glow N-word?
I get it, yes. This person is saying that you're a Fed.
Yeah. It's called Fed posting sometimes. The next Kiwi Farm user responds, anyone with a join date over a year that doesn't post regularly should be preemptively banned, like as a security precaution. The next user, I honestly believe it's a fucking furry. Not even feds go that low on the septic thing. Here you go, Keffals, with neg rating and everything before you fucking spin this shit. Translated, that means, look at this screenshot I have showing this post has a negative rating before you use this as evidence against us.
So these users, they're like, oh fuck, this is going to be used against us.
Except this more, they're just mad because they view it as like a really clumsy Fed posting effort. Like,
yeah.
Another user, love how both Fed posters chose specifically to say, quote, plant bombs, end quote. So in short, everyone in the thread responding to it starts making fun of the person for the violent threat, treating it as obvious bait to involve the authorities or get Kiwi Farms into more PR trouble. No one supports the post and it was quickly taken down. A few more quotes. Fuck off, cunt, glow harder. I guess glow means like be a Fed? One more. Like clockwork, and all the retards on Twitter will eat it up despite it being obvious bullshit.
Arslers.
So those were the two violent threats on Kiwi Farms. To put them in context, Keffal's thread on Kiwi Farms, before it was locked by Moon to try to chill things out, was about 46,500 posts. About
Jesus
one person.
Christ.
When they locked it, even after they locked it, there was no way I was going to be able to. It was just an insane amount of just bilge. There's the separate thread dedicated to the Drop Kiwi Farms. Hashtag was about 3,500. That's how I got my estimate of more than 50,000 posts about Keffals or her campaign on Kiwi Farms. That's likely an underestimate because I'm sure they talked about her elsewhere on the site. 2 posts out of 50,000 had violent threats. They both went down within like 15 minutes.
And that's it? That's it. This is just 2 posts. So a tiny percentage of these posts had actual violent threats. And the entire site gets not just taken down, but wiped from the Internet Archive because of these 2 fucking posts.
I have looked pretty hard. Like I said, it's impossible to read the whole thread. It's too long. I asked on Twitter. I talked to folks around Kiwi Farms who, of course, have an agenda, but they gave me other information I needed that didn't always make them look good. Most importantly, no one in Keffal's camp has posted other examples of Kiwi Farms issuing violent threats.
Well, what about off Kiwi Farms? I mean, this became such a huge story. Were there threats on other sites?
Here's where we get to the very weirdest part of the story. So the threat that got the most attention actually involved 4chan rather than Kiwi Farms. It was posted by Keffals herself on August 31st, mid-afternoon East Coast time. So I'm not sure whether that was before or after Cloudflare defended hosting Kiwi Farms. But she said, yesterday, as I was ending the stream where I gave updates on the hashtag Drop Kiwi Farms campaign, this was posted online just outside my address. Shortly afterwards, Northern Ireland police came to the apartment I'm staying in because someone had attempted to swat me. I'm going to return to this point, but the security here is ridiculously lax, given that Keffals is at this point on the run for her life. That's what she says. So first, Ellen, the friend she's staying with in Northern Ireland, publicly announces what type of food they're going to get. And it's poutine, which is probably rare there, like at least say fish and chips.
I'll just save you a spoiler. It is very rare there. I checked. But Jesus.
And then Keffals publicly posts an image from 4chan that reveals the apartment building, or at least the neighborhood they're in, because that was the whole point of posting it.
This makes it like harder to feel empathy for her if she's, because a lot of this does seem to be for attention.
She's giving the 4chan poster exactly what he wants. This is how 4chan operates. Like, look, we got to them.
Right. And also here's a picture of the house that I'm staying in if anybody wants to drop by.
It's just unbelievably bad OPSEC. But I don't want to take away from the fact that it's an undeniably weird and menacing note. Katie, would you like me to read it to you?
Please do.
Okay. They use Keffal's dead name, the first name from before she transitioned. I'm just going to say Keffals instead. I'm a gentleman.
You're such an ally.
Loyalists against Troons. Keffals out of our community. Kiwi Farms, all Troons. 38/2022, that's the date. Ulster Kiwi Farms Force. For Sneed and Ulster. Heil Josh the Corn Lord. Ethan Gunt Ralph told me to do this. Katie, should we start a segment called Yes, Yes, No, perhaps?
This might as well be Welsh.
Okay, I'll try. I'm not going to even try to get this whole thing. I'll just try to sum it up. Troon, we went over. It's a derogatory term to say, like, basically a clout-chasing sort of fake trans person. The political stuff, in a Northern Irish context, like, I'm just going to read from the Wikipedia page. Now we're fucking talking about the Troubles.
Oh, my God.
The late 20th century conflict in Northern Ireland, which I know nothing about.
Did this guy kill the Queen? Or does he like the Queen?
We're going to fucking get there, dude.
We're going to get to that? Okay.
Wikipedia. This is the Wikipedia entry on the Troubles. The conflict was primarily political and nationalistic, fueled by historical events. It also had an ethnic or sectarian dimension, but despite use of the terms Protestant and Catholic to refer to the two sides, it was not a religious conflict. A key issue was the status of Northern Ireland, aka where Belfast is. Unionists and Loyalists, who for historical reasons were mostly Ulster Protestants, wanted Northern Ireland to remain within the United Kingdom. Irish nationalists and Republicans, who are mostly Irish Catholics, wanted Northern Ireland to leave the United Kingdom and join a united Ireland, aka be independent. So that's what the Loyalist part of this thread is referring to. This is someone living in or near Belfast who sides with England and thinks Ireland should be part of the UK, and they're likely to be Protestant rather than Catholic. Ulster Kiwi Farms Force is, I guess, a takeoff of the Ulster Volunteer Force. That was a loyalist paramilitary group that faced off against the IRA and naturally was responsible for atrocities. So that's a little bit of recent Irish history, because that's where we are, Katie.
Okay, and who is Josh the Corn Lord and Ethan Gunt Ralph? Well, Josh the Corn Lord, I can imagine that's Josh from Kiwi Farms.
Yeah, so that's Josh Moon. I don't know what Corn Lord is. I almost certainly don't want to know. Ethan Ralph is a fairly gonzo right-wing internet personality. I've been aware of him since Gamergate. He does the Ralph Retort website. If it still exists, I don't care. There's a lot of stuff about Ethan Ralph on Kiwi Farms. He was involved in multiple legal entanglements that provided Kiwi Farms with a lot of, like, lolcow milk. Ethan Ralph fucking hates Kiwi Farms.
Yes,
He's
he
a
does.
right or far right guy who hates Kiwi Farms. If you search Twitter, you'll see that his relationship to them is roughly the same as Keffals. Like, not a fan. So, saying, Heil Josh the Corn Lord, Ethan Gunt Ralph told me to do this, is arguably confusing because those two people hate one another. Unless it's like trolly, like I'm false flagging this and trying to blame it on Ethan.
Right.
I don't think, it didn't really seem like journalists picked up on the weirdness here, because I think the folks writing about this story mostly had no genuine familiarity with Kiwi Farms or the bizarre cast of characters ensnared in this dark corner of the internet. Also, I'm just a pathetic lowlife, so I recognize names like Ethan Ralph when I see them because I've wasted my life and have basically nothing left to live for.
Yeah, this does seem to be a continuing issue when news reporters try to understand internet drama, is that you have to spend a lot of time within these communities. They have a specific language in these various different communities, and if you just drop in and take things literally, you're gonna miss a lot of shit. You're missing a lot of layers.
Katie, how can you expect reporters to learn about a community they're reporting on when it's so dangerous it was pulled offline?
True. You know what? They need a furry. They need a furry like Tracy Woodrins to go in and be the bomb sniffing dog for them.
So this strange image posted to a website that wasn't Kiwi Farms, it was 4chan, was treated as evidence.
But it references Kiwi Farms.
Yeah, and that was why it was treated as evidence that Kiwi Farms was responsible. Here's how Vice reported it. Sorrenti found out that someone inspired by the thread on Kiwi Farms had posted a picture of themselves standing outside Murray's apartment while holding a threatening message. Moments later, the police arrived and told her that someone had reported a shooting at her apartment, and so on. So someone inspired by the thread on Kiwi Farms. Look, I know the thing says Kiwi Farms, but there's no reporting to back up the idea that this person was inspired by Kiwi Farms, to which you might respond, you, Katie, being a jerk, but Jesse, they said they were inspired by Kiwi Farms in their note. To which I would respond, yes, and someone emailed the London, Ontario city government and said they were Keffals.
True.
Katie, can we shit talk journalism a minute before we continue with the story?
Just this once.
Should we do housekeeping first, just to get that out of the way?
Yeah, we should do housekeeping.
Oh my god, this episode's a beast. I can't wait till you edit it. Well, to be fair, I've been fucking hunched over poor.
That's true. You have been spending months on this.
Okay, we're Blocked and Reported. We're a podcast that we do a lot of stories about internet bullshit, blockedandreported.org. Our subreddit is blockedandreported.reddit.com. We're doing a live event in Arlington, but it's sold out. Tough luck. Thank you for folks who bought tickets. That's crazy we sold that shit out, right?
I know, very quickly.
October 29th, look for tickets on Craigslist. I bought half the tickets. I'm just going to sell them for $1,000 a piece.
Step up.
We have 2 hopeful live events to announce soon, but that's been the case before, so we'll wait till that's done. Anything else for housekeeping, Katie?
Yes, we have a subscriber program. If you go to blockedandreported.org, you get 3 free episodes of this podcast every month.
Nope, they're not free. You pay for them.
Oh, right. 3 extra episodes every month. We just recorded a fun one a couple days ago about some drama among a #vanlife influencer. It's quite the story.
That shit was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Katie did a great job. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it is also the best way to support the show. So the reason that we can keep doing this and we don't have to go get jobs at Safeway, which Jesse wouldn't be able to do because they have rules against that sort of thing, is because of our subscribers. So please go to blockedandreported.org and join us.
They do have a staunch no Jesse's policy. No Kiwis Farms lurkers. Working on this shit the last couple of days made me so thankful for our premium subscribers, because can you imagine if I put all this time into Tor? I still don't know what Tor is. The other thing is blockedreportedpodcast@gmail.com for any feedback. I'm sure our Kiwi Farms episode won't generate feedback. Also, we got some great advice entries. Send us an MP3 if you have friend or relationship advice of a non-sexually explicit nature. We're going to do a segment or an episode on that coming up, because based on what you've heard so far, who better to give you advice about how to live your life than us two?
Yes. Speaking of non-sexual content, I also have a little correction to a prior episode. Can I do that here?
Ooh. Do it.
Okay, we got an email from a listener after our investigative reporting on daisy chains in the last episode. All right, so the listener says the sex act that he is describing, and he in this case is a reporter for Men's Health, or
Ethical Boy Slut.
Ethical Boy Slut. He's an advice columnist for the magazine Men's Health, and he described a sex act called a daisy chain. And our listener says, the sex act he is describing is called a Lucky Pierre. A daisy chain is 3 or more people all performing oral sex on each other, e.g., person A would be performing oral sex on person B performing oral sex on person C, and person C would be performing oral sex on daisy A, hence a chain. So, correction to that, what we were talking about was a man, I don't want to describe it, it's a family-friendly show.
It's fine. You said daisy A instead of person A, which I like. You got daisy A.
Regardless, you can go back and listen to that if you want our description of what a daisy chain is not.
If you want to, yes. Yeah, which I'm sure you do.
So thank you to that. I will not mention his name, but thank you to that for our listener.
Let's talk shit about journalism, Katie.
Let's do it. I love nothing more.
The reporting on this story has been like ridiculously god-awful. It's sort of everything we criticize about modern journalism: the certitude, the complete lack of any distinction between activism and journalism, the confident proclamations about subjects journalists know nothing about. It's all there. So one very basic thing you'll know if you follow online harassment or online culture is that trolls constantly do false flag attacks. During Gamergate, for example, I'm going to ask you to Google that if you know what I'm talking about. You'd sometimes see targets of outrage campaigns get death.
Actually, don't Google it because you'll get a bunch of wrong information.
Right. During that, you would fairly frequently see people get death threats like, I'm with Gamergate and I will kill you. Some of the time, and probably most of the time, if we're being honest, those folks had nothing to do with Gamergate. They were trolls, almost always from places like 4chan or 8chan. These are sites that are very nihilistic, and they consist of the sort of person who wants to call in a bomb threat and be like, I, the person issuing this bomb threat, am Tom Smith at 54 whatever lane. The whole hope is that in addition to the chaos caused by a bomb threat, police will show up at that poor schmuck's house. So trolls love to stir up trouble. And one of the biggest ways to stir up trouble at zero or little risk to oneself is to threaten someone with death and to attribute that death threat to some third party. For example, while I was poking around, I had to do a lot of searches on the Kiwi Farms archives. One snapshot of the site has this message at the top from Josh Moon. Ongoing DDoS attack again. P.S. Attacking a specific lolcows thread isn't going to make me assume it's that person and start up a crusade against them, you fucking moron. Do you get what he's saying there?
Yes, but please parse it for me.
He's saying, like, Josh Moon, who is, whatever else he is, he's savvy about the internet. He's saying, if you do basically a hacker attack against a thread about a lolcow, I'm not going to be like, oh, it must have been the lolcow who launched this. I'm going to retaliate, because that's how trolls work. They try to cause that kind of trouble.
Okay.
So watching this unfold, I was a little bit gobsmacked by these journalists who just weeks ago had reported on a false flag swatting that targeted Keffals, and then suddenly they're saying, well, if an anonymous post says it comes from an online community, the threat comes from an online community. It's just very ridiculously credulous, right? Am I missing something here?
No, I think you're right. And I think, again, this gets to the fact that a lot of online reporters do not understand the communities that they're covering.
Once the snowball effect started and a bunch of journalists learned about Kiwi Farms for the first time and decided to write about it, the reporting got like worse and worse. So I'm reading this coverage and I'm pulling my hair out at how off base it is. So like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation includes this account from Liz Fong Jones. She's a former Google employee who's been targeted by Kiwi Farms and has been encouraging Cloudflare and others to take it down. Here's a quote from the article involving Trans Lifeline, which is a suicide hotline for trans people. Liz Fong Jones said they meaning Kiwi Farms, tried to slander Trans Lifeline's character, and when she pushed back online on their accusations, they published her personal information on the forum, including her home address, her biological parents' names, and a photocopy of her gender and name change. I was minding my own business. I was trying to support a crisis hotline for trans people, and now I was in the crosshairs of these people, etc. So the doxing and harassment she experienced is awful, and is something Kiwi Farms does all the time. But this whole account of the story involving Trans Lifeline is just a fucking lie. Kiwi Farms thought the people who ran the Trans Lifeline were grifters. Kiwi Farms think Liz Fong Jones is friends with them. I haven't looked into that. But it turned out that, lo and behold, they were grifters. If you go to the Suicide Hotline's 2017 tax filing, they say our founders stole, I think it's $375,000 from us.
Wow.
So there was a major scandal at the Trans Lifeline, like a famous suicide hotline, and all that gets translated into the Canadian Broadcasting Corp saying she was just defending the innocent suicide hotline against slander. So it's bad journalism. And the only way you can write that story that poorly and be that credulous toward Liz Fong Jones' account is if you don't know anything about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Trans Lifeline story was not reported. But did anybody report that?
No, I don't think anyone covered it except that the grifty
I've never heard of this
scammers who
before in my
ran
life.
it. And I should be clear, they've cleaned up. I think now they're a genuinely vital resource. But yeah, they got puff piece coverage for running it, but they appear to have been criminals. According to the people who now run Trans Lifeline, this money was stolen. And no one paid attention to it except Kiwi Farms. And there's this crazy backstory involving Corinna Cohn trying to raise awareness of their lack of safeguarding, like background checks. And supposedly one of the grifters running Trans Lifeline showed up at Joshua Moon's house to confront him. That's how heated it got.
Did she get his address from Kiwi Farms?
So yeah, that's just an example of like just really brainless coverage of this that just isn't tuned into the history of the site and the many controversies. Okay, that brings us to CNN. Sorrenti, better known by her online username Keffals, became the target of a harassment campaign organized on Kiwi Farms, a notorious online forum where users are openly transphobic, after she began speaking about trans rights on Twitch, a live video streaming platform popular with video gamers. Katie, based on what you know about how journalism has performed in these sorts of situations, do you think the scrap between Kiwi Farms and Keffals can really be explained solely by the fact that she was just speaking about trans rights?
No.
All right, so there is a thing called victim blaming, and it's real. If a woman gets raped and you ask what she's wearing, you're victim blaming. But the concept has sort of ballooned outward and is now just an excuse for people to turn off their brain. So someone can both be a victim, but also be a figure of genuine controversy, and those can both be important parts of the story. Like, only toddlers think the world is divided into good and evil, and there's a
toddlers
tendency...
and journalists.
And journalists. And there's a tendency in a lot of reporting about online harassment to assume that as soon as someone is established as a capital V victim, they should be treated as a saint, and everything they claim about everything should be taken at face value. But that's just not how the world works. I feel like we've seen a lot of examples of this, right?
Oh, yeah.
This lesson is really important in the case of Keffals because it's led to some really off-base and confused reporting. Keffals is a complicated figure. She's done some obviously good stuff. At one point, she raised, I think, $250,000 for this LGBT organization in Texas. That seems legit. There's also a kernel of truth to the idea that anyone who's an outspoken advocate for a political cause on Twitter or Twitch and who gets a big enough platform is going to come in for some level of abuse. I would argue that's true whether you're on the left or right, to be fair. But Keffals is a very aggressive flamethrower of a figure. She seeks out conflict with just about everyone. It's part of her brand. She's been engaged in a long, brutal by internet standards conflict with Destiny. He's an influential Twitch streamer who had 700,000 followers on that platform, meaning he was making a very good living. In March, he got booted off from the platform under questionable circumstances, apparently in part because he questioned whether the UPenn trans swimmer Leah Thomas should be able to swim on the women's team. Keffals tweeted the following. This is Destiny's Twitch channel right now. That's with a screenshot of how he was kicked off. Hey, Steven, I just took away your primary source of income. Please leave me alone and stop bullying trans people for content.
Is Steven Destiny?
That's me.
Steven's Destiny. Then she follows up. His followers are going to get mad, so I'm going to clarify now that I didn't report anything and he did this to himself.
Wait, and all he did was question whether Leah Thomas should be allowed to swim on Penn's team, which she shouldn't.
I was kind of mean
the
too.
Precipitating moment. I think there'd been one other time when during like an actual riot after George Floyd, he made a remark about like you should send in rednecks to shoot the rioters.
Okay,
which is not good. That was a while ago, but I think what got him kicked off was Leah Thomas.
Isn't he a leftist?
He's overall on the left, yeah, but he has like quote unquote heterodox politics.
Gotcha.
So that's far from the only example of Keffals like seeking out drama and just consistently throwing rocket fuel on it. And again, I'm not victim blaming. I'll explain why this matters in a minute. Keffals delights in the destruction of her opponents, and that includes threats to dox them. Like she's straightforwardly pro-doxing as long as the target is a bad person. There's no bad tactics, just bad targets. At one point she tweeted, I found out who the Kiwi Farms user was who doxed my mother and sent him a photo of him with his mother and addressed him by his name, and he deleted his account. Unlike him, I'm not posting it online, but if he comes back, I know where he works and will forward his entire post history to his boss.
All right, so she's into revenge?
Obviously, the problem with that sort of vigilante justice is you're trusting the person, Keffals in this case, to make the right decisions, like they're doxing the right person and the person deserves it. More recently, Frederick Brennan, who deserves a whole episode of his own, he was the guy running 8chan, which is one of the most toxic sites on the internet, but he's since reformed, and he's now fighting against online harassment, including on Kiwi Farms. He tweeted that Keffals bragged in a Discord chat about telling someone to kill themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Someone also posted a Discord chat in which Keffals clearly appears to be threatening to dox someone else. This is someone who goes by Winter on Kiwi Farms. So Winter posted video of this Discord chat with Keffals. Keffals says, I have your face and name. I know what schools you went to. I know every member of your family. Excited to see how they all react when your information gets sent to them. Keffals also claims they hired a private investigator to look into this person's background, and Keffals drops the name of many of Winter's friends and family members, though it's unclear whether Keffals has accurate information. They also have this exchange. Winter, how much did you pay for this info, by the way? Meaning the info from the private investigator. Did it come out of your GoFundMe money? Keffals, Winter, I don't know how much money you think I make, but I was going to make 6 figures this year before the GoFundMe happened.
And when did this happen, this conversation with Winter?
This was just in the last few days.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha.
So she seems to be saying like she has plenty of money and is just putting this GoFundMe money into savings. We'll get back to that, but that wasn't really the tone of the YouTube appeal, which says like, help me, my life is at risk.
Wait, how much did she get for the GoFundMe?
Uh-oh.
$100,000. So Keffals just in general isn't really concerned about doxing or protecting other people's private information. At one point, Liz Fong Jones posted an address and phone number in Ukraine, supposedly connected to a company hosting kiwi farms. Keffals quote retweeted it and told her followers to do your thing. In any other context, everyone would be like, that's targeted harassment. To tweet out an address and say, do your thing, whatever the context.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, Keffals is always involved in drama. Again, I'll explain why that matters in a minute. Also, her security habits suck. She just seems completely incapable of taking the most basic precautions to keep herself safe online, to the point where her own fans have been like, why do you keep revealing where you are? Just film in front of a green screen, stuff like that. Another wrinkle here is that she has sometimes at least arguably been dishonest. This includes in her fundraising efforts, as I just alluded to. So when she first went public about her swatting, the first thing she said in that video is she woke up with a gun in her face. Here's a clip of the 2 ways she described the incident.
On August 5th, I was woken up by London Police Services pointing an assault rifle in my face. I went into the hallway and then saw that assault rifle. I screamed and I thought I was going to die.
Okay, so these are 2 different versions of the incident.
Yeah, and even that
both cannot have happened.
We know the first one didn't happen. She's walked it back. Even the latter one is arguably misleading. The chief of police of London, Ontario, on August 11th issued a statement. He said that the cops knocked on the door midday. So maybe she was woken up, but if she's woken up, it was by a nap. And that there were armed officers there, but it wasn't a dynamic entry. They didn't barge in the door. They knocked on the door. So
okay, so they knock on the door. She opens the door. The cops are there. Did they like swarm the apartment, or did they say, Ms. Keffals, can we come in or whatever?
They just said that she was polite and they just arrested her because, at the time they were investigating her. But there's no sign of this scary situation with an assault rifle.
I mean, it is, still like getting arrested for something you didn't.
So it is possible, given what Alex described now on Keffal's stream, that maybe they were in the hallway and they pointed an assault rifle at her when she came out of her room. Unfortunately, we don't have body cam footage of that, but.
Dude, that's
incredibly scary. Of course, but she was not woken up to an assault rifle in her face.
And how long was she held?
That's a good question. I don't know. Not that long. It was resolved fairly quickly. There are some other red flags in her fundraising efforts. So, like I said, she raised around $100,000. The GoFundMe link was in the video's description. In the video, Keffals makes certain claims about the uphill battle she and her fiance will face to get their stuff back and the precarity of their situation. I did a quick cut of all the relevant claims. Will you just listen to that?
We seized my fiance's cell phones and laptop, as well as their external drive, which contained the only copy of their PhD thesis and other important university documents. Because of the negligence of the police, we were both left functionally unemployed, and I have spent thousands of dollars replacing our computers and cell phones, so our lives aren't completely
Did she really buy new computer cell phones in one fucking day? Is that like, Jesus, like, got released from the fucking cell, time to go to fucking Best Buy? Or I'm so confused about that part. I'm confused about every part. This is when she was still in full lie mode, I guess, so.
Destroyed by what happened to us. Even after acquiring a new phone, I still cannot log into some of my accounts because the London Police Service holds the phone that my two-factor authentication goes to. I need your help because I can't do this alone. I started a GoFundMe to move immediately, recoup my losses, and build a legal fund to protect my rights. I do not yet know when I'm going to be returning to broadcasting on Twitch. When I was woken up by police officers and saw the assault rifle pointed at me, I thought I was going to die. I feel traumatized. I just want everyone to know what happened and to ask for help so I can seek justice for what happened to me.
That's quite the monotone. I like the voice. This sounds like a terrible situation. It sounds like it cost Keffals a lot of money. Her fiance sounds fucked. I mean, it sounds terrible, right?
Yeah, it sounds terrible, and I think it really gave the impression they were in some degree of financial need. Do you think that's fair to say?
Totally. Yes.
So that.
We need the money to get back on our feet.
Yeah, she's making it sound like they can't really make a living. So that video went up on August 9th and included the claim that they wouldn't get that hard drive back for months. The very next day, August 10th, she did a Twitch stream that's now titled, I Got My Stuff Back. She tells her fans she got her stuff back, and her fiance got their stuff back too. So it turned out to take one day, not many months. And at the start of that video, she repeats the claim that she was assault rifled in the face. Mm-hmm. So there were also the leaked chat logs posted earlier this week, the ones with Winter that appear to show her saying the GoFundMe is going to go into her savings account until she needs it. She just hasn't really been clear what the fundraising's for. She talks vaguely about how her rights were violated, but it's not clear what's going on. I don't expect someone who goes through something this traumatic to recall every detail with perfect accuracy. But the story she told allowed her to raise about $100,000 to save up for something, and it's not really clear what that is.
And did she have when you have a GoFundMe, right, you set like a target? What was the actual target?
Oh, no.
It just lists the goal as $100,000. I don't know if it gets boosted, if you can boost it along the way.
No! Jesse didn't know this! Oh, no, wait. Did he not know? Hold on.
Her fiance sounds fucked.
I don't think it's for months. The very next day, August 10th.
Oh, he corrects in part 2. Okay.
That's now titled, I Got My Stuff Back.
Oh, that was fast.
She tells her fans she got her stuff back, and her fiance got their stuff back too. So it turned out to take 1 day, not many months. And at the start of that video, she repeats the claim that she was assault rifled in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So there were also the leaked chat logs posted earlier this week, the ones with Winter that appear to show her saying the GoFundMe is going to go into her savings account until she needs it. She just hasn't really been clear what the fundraising's for. She talks vaguely about how her rights were violated, but it's not clear what's going on. I don't expect someone who goes through something this traumatic to recall every detail with perfect accuracy. But the story she told allowed her to raise about $100,000 to save up for something, and it's not really clear what that is.
And did she have when you have a GoFundMe, right, you set like a target? What was the actual target?
It just lists the goal as $100,000. I don't know if it gets boosted, if you can boost it along the way.
Okay, so her goal was $100,000. So she told people she needed $100,000.
Yeah, unless there's something where you can start at 20 and then when it hits it,
there are skip
but I don't think
buttons.
that's how GoFundMe works.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't think it's unfair to point these things out. Also, it's never really been clear why she had to flee to Europe, which is like this little thing just sitting here, right?
How much does it cost to flee to Europe these days?
So journalists have...
Did she need a private plane?
Journalists have used her intercontinental travel to add a dash of mystique and danger to the story. The headline of a Ben Collins article in NBC News goes, anti-trans stalkers at Kiwi Farms are chasing one victim around the world. They're listing targets.
Oh my God.
Damn.
Well, explain that reaction.
She says that they're not chasing her around the world. She's telling them, A, she's telling them where she's going, and B, she made the choice to leave.
Yeah.
Like she could have gone to like London, from London, Ontario. Couldn't she have just gone down the street?
Yeah.
Ottawa. Yeah.
Ottawa,
No, that's what's been so weird about the coverage is like, no one's come close to explaining why anything that happened actually required her going to Europe. Like, if she wants to go to Europe, by all means. I bet Northern Ireland's a cool place to hang out this time of year, but especially if you're not going to take any security precautions and you're going with this storyline where your life is at risk and you have to raise money, like, people are going to ask questions about that.
They're not going to ask questions about that.
It's a little weird to me. Also, like, if it were just a couple discrepancies, it would be one thing, but it's not hard to find other instances of Keffals just being dishonest. So, like, Keffals has beef with everyone, but Keffals has a long-running beef with Lauren Southern, who has a history of just, like, grotesque alt-right bullshit. For reasons we'll get to in a moment,
True.
Lauren Southern accused Keffals of grooming. Keffals responded by saying that Southern was on the Jeffrey Epstein flight logs and justified it as follows. Katie, click that link.
To start off this discussion, I think I need to show you all something. Lauren Southern blocked me. After all the shit she said, after all the fights we got into, she finally blocked me. And do you know why she blocked me? Because I asked her why she was on the Epstein flight logs. That's why. Really seems like she has something to hide, doesn't it? But
What is the implication there? Is Lauren a child rapist? Damn, I didn't even know this. We're getting into the deep lore. Oh my God.
I think it's quite funny. It seems like people really do not like being accused of being a pedophile on the internet. It's too bad she would never do the same thing to me. Oh wait, yeah, she did. She did exactly that. So when I did it back, no, blocked. She can't take it.
Okay, so Lauren Southern was not on the Epstein flight logs, I take it?
She
didn't hang out with Jeffrey Epstein. He doesn't hang out with Canadian reporters from Rebel Media.
Shockingly no. But you can see how...
Unless was she like one of the massage therapists?
But you can see how Keffals is explicitly saying, this person lied about me, so I'm going to lie about them, right?
Yeah.
And she tweeted the flight logs thing in a way where people, without knowing the full context, were going to believe it and spread it. She also, her thing with Destiny got really ugly. I'm not going to include a clip of it here, but I watched a scene from her stream where she accused Destiny of stealthing, which is secretly removing a condom during sex, which is rape. Then there's a very long pause as her stream freaks out in the chat, and then eventually she walks it back. So it just... she has like a little bit of a history of slipperiness about facts and a willingness to use whatever tactics it takes, as long as the target is right. Okay, so on top of all this controversy, there are two other issues that are prominent in her Kiwi Farms entry and in the sort of, dark legend of Keffals. These are rumors about Keffals that have spread far and wide. One is the claim that she groomed minors. Now, online, and you'll know this if you've listened to this podcast before, any accusation that X groomed Y should be met with extreme caution. People throw this shit around constantly, right?
Absolutely. And they use grooming. The term grooming has really stretched.
Yeah.
So now it also means like ideological indoctrination.
Kiwi Farms is gleefully confident that Keffals groomed people, and they claim they have screenshots to support it. Long story, mercifully short, they don't. I have not seen any evidence to suggest Keffals actually groomed a minor. Keffals did run a Discord server called...
Oh no, don't laugh.
Catboy Ranch.
No.
Catboy Ranch had minors on it. The rumor she's a groomer, that rhymes, stems from screenshots supposedly leaked from there. Except a source that seems to know what they're talking about told me that those screenshots might actually have been from another Discord server called Femboy Hangout. That would be a good match for you. You could roll with Femboy Hangout.
I'm already in it. I'm in it right now.
So yes, Keffals ran Catboy Ranch. She did not run Femboy Hangout, but she hung out there. There's some weird and questionable stuff that went on in these places, including with minors, but none of it involves Keffals directly. There is no proof that Keffals groomed someone, and that's a horrible rumor to spread if you don't have evidence. There's one instance in which someone posts a photo of themselves, and Keffals does a little bit like hubba hubba, and like says their ass is fat and asks what their pronouns are, and then everyone's like, this person was underage, but she didn't know that. It's the most marginal case ever. It's nothing. The other true rumor about Keffals is that she helps to supply hormones to trans kids without their parents' permission.
Is that legal, Jesse?
Setting aside the legality question, I think the answer is no. She runs something called the DIY HRT directory, or she sponsors it. This is a resource to help trans people get hormones, including minors. Keffals is tight with a person named Chloe, aka @BobPosting, who is even more outspoken about these efforts. For example, Bob Posting once said on Twitter, "I got like 500 plus minors on HRT." Crazy. Destiny responded by calling him an actual pedophile, which I don't think that's a good move. That doesn't make you a pedophile. It might make you a criminal. If you follow the million links flying around in the Keffalsverse, you will likely get to some dark places. There's at least one company that produces estrogen in these cutesy sort of anime style boxes. And whatever your views on minors and hormones and puberty blockers, this is just like a really incredibly controversial thing to do or to talk about online openly. People do not respond well to the idea of adults helping kids get medication behind their parents' backs. I think that is like a good faith concern, whatever your views on trans issues, right?
Yeah, probably not something that you should attach your name to.
None of what I just said. I just said a lot about Keffals. I just criticized Keffals a lot. None of that is to justify her getting harassed and doxxed or to deny the role a site like Kiwi Farms undoubtedly plays in exacerbating everything. That's not my point. Here's my point. My point is Keffals is an internet famous person who has made a ton of enemies. Destiny's fans on Twitch alone before he got booted constituted 700,000 people who were probably mostly young and very online. She also has some sort of whole other fight that I had no time to understand with the Quartering, a YouTuber with 1.3 million subscribers. So if the goal is to figure out who is responsible for violent threats or swatting her, I just don't know why you would start with Kiwi Farms. Kiwi Farms wasn't even the only site to dox her. There's this other notorious doxing site that is basically just doxing. This is a site where when you go there, you're literally greeted with a drawing of Satan's head.
Gotcha. Okay, so we don't know for sure that all of this came from Kiwi Farms, or any of it came from Kiwi Farms.
This is the site where if you mention it or you ask about it, I permaban you from everything.
With this sort of online fuckery, there's genuinely no way to know. And anytime you assume about the identity or motives of anonymous online trolls, you're likely to regret it later on because these stories are very confusing and difficult to report on.
This kind of reminds me of the January 6th stuff where there was this giant campaign to deplatform the site Parler because people were saying that the January 6th riots were organized on Parler. And then subsequent reporting, I believe, found that much of it was organized on Facebook. But Parler is a right-wing site, and so instead of calling for Facebook to take Facebook out off of the internet, people just focused on fucking Parler.
Yeah, a lot of this is just, it's about Kiwi Farms is a bad place that has made a lot of enemies because people have been personally affected by it. But the reporting that we know that the folks doxing her or swatting her are from there's just not necessarily great evidence to support that.
Okay, well, what about this photo in Ireland? I mean, that seems pretty clear that it came from Kiwi Farms, right?
That's a great question, Katie. And guess what?
What?
I found the kid who said he did it, and I talked to him, and I know the answer.
All right.
Oh,
but it's gonna have to wait till
God.
Fuck, okay.
As always, we're produced with help from Tracing Woodgrains. I'm Jesse Single, and remember, we'll be back soon.
And I'm Katie Herzog. And also remember, even if you don't care who threatened Keffals, don't you want to come back and find out why we had that dumb moment of silence for the Queen?
Wow. Aren't you guys excited when we come